The Joe Rogan Experience.
For the aliens,
What do you think? If you had a bet, if I $100, your last $100.
it's hard. If I had $100 and we were gonna find out, I'd say I'm leaning more towards yes than no.
I'm leaning more towards yes too.
I wasn't leaning before that interview. I wasn't though.
I was for the documentary, that Jeremy Corbell documentary, Bob Lazar, Area 51 and Flying Saucers. Before that, I was like, mostly bullshit.
Is that one available? Like
Netflix. Yeah,
Okay.
it's great. There's a lot of old Bob Lazar shit too, from the George Knapp interviews where he goes over the details of the craft and he describes it and explains it. And that motherfucker knew about Element 115 in the 1990s.
That's one of the big ones that gets me. That's one of the big ones that's like, that's a big red flag that this dude's real.
There's a lot. Who knows? But there's a lot that makes me go, So
I know we talk about this all the time, but I so fucking wish Sasquatch was real. I do, man. Every time I'm in Oregon or in Washington, I'm walking around, I buy all the little like roadside trinkets and shit. I love that shit. I wish he was fucking real, man.
It would be nice, but I think it's not a dead one.
You would have. I mean, that's one of the ones I'm like 90% sure. You always got to give room. You always got to give room for the possibility.
The thing is, people really believe and then go looking for it. They invest so much time in it, they start going crazy.
Yeah.
Like Survivor Man, Les Stroud.
Yes.
He's gone.
Gone.
He's gone. He's out there in the woods.
Yeah.
He's got a pup tent waiting for Bigfoot to knock out the fucking zippers.
Yeah.
It's weird, man. He's 100% believer now.
Yeah.
And he does that Survivor Man Bigfoot show. Where he's like, what? I heard a branch snap. Cut the commercial.
That's definitely a Squatch.
Yeah. Those shows are weird, man. Because those shows have been on TV, like Surviving Bigfoot. Or Finding Bigfoot, rather. So Finding Bigfoot was on TV for like, what, 8 fucking years? They never found shit.
No.
Like, how the fuck do you keep renewing that show?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm going to breathe underwater. The show's called Breathing Underwater. Can you breathe underwater? Not yet.
Tune in next week.
Next season, though, we're going to try again to breathe underwater.
We'll figure this shit out, y'all. Just give us an off season. We'll get this.
These scientists, they're saying no one can breathe underwater. Not yet.
They don't know shit.
Trust me.
Honestly, Louisiana, we got a guy. He breathes underwater.
If there was a Bigfoot, no one would be happier than me.
Dude, I'd be right there, though. I'd be fucking stoked.
Imagine seeing an age.
Yeah.
Just fucking trying to get out, looking around at
no,
people.
No, not cave. I want to see it like in
the forest?
Pick of Destiny, like the mushroom strip where he's like walking and singing with him.
Oh,
and Jack
right.
Black's Pick of Destiny. Pick of Destiny.
I would want to be there. I want to see it with my own eyes.
For
a
sure.
Video, like, man, I saw 80-foot tall Donald Trump with a Hillary Clinton head powering it, walking through a post-apocalyptic Philadelphia. You can't prove to me that video is real.
I need to see it.
I would shit my pants. I don't know what I would say though. If I was in the woods and I was camping and I saw a fucking 9-foot tall gorilla, I don't know what I would say.
You wouldn't. I mean, if you came back,
keep my mouth shut.
You'd probably have to.
Yeah, because you'd feel so stupid.
Yeah. Well, plus, I mean, say there is one out there. There's a lot of bullshit artists out there telling you they saw some shit. You know, a lot of people trying to get some camera time.
There can't be one though. If it's going to be a living thing, there has to be a living
family. Population
of them. Yeah, because primates don't live that long. Like, I don't think there's a primate that lives any older than humans.
Yeah. We're way into the weeds. We know it doesn't exist. So
most likely
sucks.
It doesn't exist. Yeah, as they get better and better at like using drones and scanning the forest and stuff, it's getting less and less likely.
Yeah. I used to, as a kid, though, like walk out in the woods and like look and hope he was around, you know?
Yeah.
And when I was living in Oregon, I was like, Hell's Canyon is probably one of the least explored parts of Oregon. If he was anywhere, he'd be up there, you know?
Well, dense ass thick forests in the Pacific Northwest, which is one of the reasons why I think it's so attractive.
Yeah.
Because like you think like, man, anything could be in here. No one knows.
Right.
Like you go outside of Philadelphia or Seattle, when you go into what is it? What's the mountain out there? What's the St. Helens? St. Helens is the one that blew, but there's another one that, anyway, those big ass mountains filled with soup. The trees are so dense, it's like a box of Q-tips.
Yeah.
Just one after the other. Bang, 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 bang.
Yeah.
And the forest floor is all pine needles so that nothing would leave a footprint.
Right.
And then you're like, what? If you saw something 30 yards away, it could disappear instantly. Left, right, you wouldn't know where the fuck it is. You'd never find it. And it could be out there. So I think that also leads to this delusional idea that it might be alive. Let me ask you this, because you're this big coast to coast Art Belt fan.
Right.
How much of that UFO stuff do you pay attention to? None. Yeah, me
Zero.
too.
When people contact me on LinkedIn and their major credential is they do a UFO magazine or something like that, I don't add them.
I used to love that stuff. I used to think it was so interesting and intriguing until I started actually paying attention to it.
Yeah.
When I started interviewing some of the people that are involved in the movement, you find the same thing over and over again. This just wanton disregard for reality. This absolute desire to prove something instead of looking at the objective facts, proving that aliens are real, proving that we've been contacted, proving that these eyewitness testimonies are legitimate.
Let me try to cross a weird idea. Okay. Once upon a time in the 1940s, there were two guys, Konrad Lorenz and Nico Tinbergen, who got a Nobel Prize for inventing a field called ethology, which is a certain kind of observation of animal behavior. And Nico Tinbergen would go off to the coastal cliffs around northern Europe. And he would observe these seabirds. And the seabirds would go out, I don't know how many miles, 10, 30, 40 miles out to the ocean to feed and bring back food for their young. And then they would come back at the end of the day, and their nests, they'd have 200 nests next to each other, but the nests had very low walls. So when the seabird came back from her fishing and waddled herself into place, moving her hind back and forth to get in place to incubate her chicks, to warm the eggs, she'd often knock an egg out. And when the egg was knocked out of the nest, the bird would reach her beak out past the egg and then pull her beak back in toward her chest to pull the egg toward the nest, and she'd do it over and over again until she got the egg in the nest. And Nico Tinbergen had this weird idea, I wish I knew where it came from, that this is a reflex, like when your doctor takes a hammer and hammers your knee and your leg shoots out and you had nothing to do with it. He figured this is the same kind of a reflex. And he figured that if you have a reflex, you need a trigger for the reflex, like that patellar hammer that hammered your knee. So he looked to see if there was a trigger that triggered this yanking your beak back in order to scoop the egg back into the nest. And he tried building artificial eggs to see if he could find out what the cues were in the egg that were causing this reaction in the bird. And finally, he got a super egg, which means it was bigger than the normal egg, it was browner than the normal egg, and he'd put the real egg. Now, if you're the bird, that real egg has your genetic legacy. It's your genetic future. A lot is riding on that egg, a lot of you. And the phony egg. And the phony egg would attract the bird so strongly that she would ignore her own egg and yank with her beak until she pulled the phony egg into the nest. Oof. And they continued to do research with this kind of thing, and they discovered that they could trick some songbirds into taking a basketball into their nest. And then when the poor little birds tried to get on top of the basketball to incubate it, they would slide off, and they'd be very frustrated, and they would climb back on again and slide off again. It was cruel.
So the phony eggs like fake tits.
Those is called supernormal stimuli. And the idea is that they bring these reflexive reactions.
Yes.
Underlying what Adolf Hitler was doing, underlying what I was doing, dancing on that stage, underlying what you do in front of an audience when you get incandescent and lose yourself and something else talks through you. All that is related to some supernormal pattern in us.
Yes.
So Hitler was basically saying the world is about to end and the kingdom of God is coming. Except the kingdom of God, in his case, was the world will be controlled by the master race, the blonde and blue-eyed Aryans, and all other people will be slave people or will be exterminated. But it was this golden paradise that he was inviting the Germans to, in which they ruled the world because they were born to rule the world.
So, and how did you have the stimulation?
Super stimulus.
So the supernormal stimulus of this artificial egg is like supernormal stimulus of this extreme behavior at the podium that attract people in.
And basically, Hitler was saying, was talking about the equivalent of extraterrestrials. He was talking about this magic quality of the Germans. He was talking about the shared soul of the Germans and how the people in Wagner operas and the gods of the old Germans had been in the souls of these people, and he was evoking the group soul, the Zeitgeist. In this case, it's the Volkgeist, the spirit of a people. And the flying saucer people are after an end of the world in which the world will be remade. And a guy named, well, there was a Jewish kid from a backward town, a really backward town, who only had been trained in manual skills. And he started preaching. And he preached that the world was, as we know, it was about to end, and we were about to enter a new kind of paradise. And because he was Jewish, he figured it's got to happen at Passover. Because at Passover, you put out a cup for Elijah, and Elijah's there to precede the Savior, the guy who will save the Jewish people. So he went up to the holiest city in Judaism, to Jerusalem, and he had a dinner, this Passover dinner, and they put out the cup, and that's when the kingdom of God was supposed to arrive. His prediction of a kingdom of God arriving at that particular Passover ceremony turned out to be utterly wrong. And in fact, the Romans seized him and nailed him to a cross. And he died. It was the opposite of everything he'd predicted. But the religion he'd put together was, and the religion really that Paul put together, because Paul was an international figure. You know, he was comfortable in the global world of the Roman Empire. But what Paul put together around Jesus was a supernormal stimulus. And it evoked a supernormal response, a supernormal reflex. And the flying saucer ideas that, you know, here we are on Earth, but there's this race that's above us that can save us, that's pushing at the same buttons. Hitler was pushing at the same buttons. The world, as we know, was about to end, and there's a new paradise, and the Germans will rule everything. So we are built to receive certain kind of stimuli. God knows how we got built that way. And when I went out in quest of the ecstatic of God, the God's inside of us, at the age of 13, I was looking for those supernormal responses in us, and for the supernormal stimuli that evoked them. And when you're doing art, when you're doing commentary, when you're doing comedy, you are hitting the buttons. You are creating supernormal stimuli. You are testing out jokes until they reach just the right shape. And you know what you can feel in the audience, what that shape is. And then you repeat that shape, knowing what its impact is going to be on the audience. I wrote a new book. It took me a long time to write all of my previous books, including How I Accidentally Started the 60s. And by the way, it isn't the same 1995 manuscript. I had 20 years of additional processing and was able to put a lot more meaning into the book. And hopefully it's still really funny. But I was able to write a book in 6 weeks. The first draft of 178,000 word book. And a normal book is 90,000 words. So this is almost twice the length of a normal book. And I was able to do it because I had told all the stories in the book. And I had felt out how the audiences responded to the stories. And I knew the words to use, and they were a well-worn path in my brain. So I simply put down on paper an oral vocabulary. But it's the audience who shapes you by giving you feedback. And eventually you perfect something so it's like Nico Tinbergen's super egg. I mean, Nico Tinbergen was eventually able to make eggs, super eggs, that had day glow on them, had polka dots on them, that were absurd, but they still had the ability, the way that flying saucer myths have the ability, to evoke the sense that there is a paradise beyond the world that we know.
Don't you think of supernormal stimulus that when you see, like a preacher on the pulpit that's screaming with confidence, when you see any of these things, like even when it comes to fake breasts, like you're seeing something like, you know what you want a woman to be good at bearing children, right? To have the right hip to waist ratio, that she's designed to breastfeed, she has large breasts.
Right.
Even though you know it's fake, it still hits whatever that genetic button is inside of your head.
Yep.
And the alien theme, the idea behind it, the archetype, is kind of like Space Daddy.
Right.
It's like, I know we're stupid, but just like this guy who's screaming on the pulpit has all the answers. Like, thank God someone has all the answers. Well, Space Daddy is for the atheists.
Right.
Space Daddy is for the people, you know what, I've listened to all these people down here. I think they're full of shit, but Space Daddy's going to help us out.
Yeah, well, that's the general idea.
Is that what it is?
Yes. And when you, as I said, when you fashion a joke, you're fashioning it to be a supernormal stimulus.
But Space Dad might be real somewhere because we're dealing with extraordinary numbers.
Okay, science person.
Okay.
I have to tell you that there's only one place in which we've ever discovered any evidence of life, and it's down here on Earth. So I'm a skeptic about life being anywhere. Right. Now, changing to a different scientific perspective, there's this thing that I call super simultaneity, super synchrony. And when the universe starts as a rapidly expanding sheet of nothing but space and time. It's space, time, and speed. That's all it is. And when it precipitates in quarks, which is unlikely, how can space, time, and speed become particles, quarks?
Right.
The fact is that there are only something like 16 different forms of those quarks, and there are a gazillion of identical copies of each quark everywhere, and they all sprang into existence at the same time. Fast forward a couple of million years. Galaxies all are pretty much the same, and all of them spring into existence pretty much at the same time, at least the first generation of galaxies. Stars ignite within those galaxies, all following pretty much the same principles. They're all just big gravity balls. Gravity's gravity balls all the way. That's planets, that's moons, all kinds of things. So there is this tendency for the universe to do the same damn thing at pretty much the same damn time, pretty much same damned everywhere in this cosmos. And we do know that there are biomolecules, carbon-based molecules, being formed in interstellar cold gas clouds, interstellar hot gas clouds, all kinds of unlikely places in the cosmos. But those are very simple little molecules. Even though we call them biomolecules, it simply means they've got carbon. Life depends on molecules. In the case of your genome, if we took just one cell, you wouldn't miss it. You have 100 trillion others. So we took just one cell from your body, and we took out the genome, it's actually the genome. So we took out the genome, and we stretched it out because it's all tangled up in the cell. It would be 3 feet long. So there's a big distance between a tiny little molecule of ammonia in an interstellar cloud and that huge, very complex, highly ordered, 3-foot long molecule or single molecule that's your genome. And we haven't learned very much at all about how you go from the simple molecules to that incredibly complex molecules. The origin of life is still one of the big puzzles. But again, because there's super synchrony and super simultaneity all over the cosmos, pretty much the same thing happens at pretty much the same time, the odds are that there are millions of other planets that have life. Those are the odds. But I set all that aside because we don't have evidence of any life, and we've been looking since, okay, I'll tell you a story. It seems to have nothing to do with anything. But once upon a time, a manager gave me an act to work with. It was Earth, Wind, and Fire. And so I read all their lyrics. I read everything about them. I studied them like a Talmudic scholar. I always did. And finally, I got to their album covers. And when I got together with the leader of the band, Maurice White, for lunch, because I hadn't yet learned to set up my boundaries and tell people I'll only work with you if I can see you in your own environment for between 1 and 3 days. That wasn't quite at that point yet. I sat with with Maurice and said, Maurice, if I've got you right, you believe that approximately 11,000 years ago, people from another civilization, someplace else, in our galaxy or beyond our galaxy, came to this Earth and brought us all of our technologies and left the messages of their technologies in the pyramids. Have I got that right? And Maurice smiled, and he said, yes. So I said, okay, there's this scientist from Cornell University, and he has just had a tremendous success with a science series on PBS. It's the most watched series PBS has ever had. And he's trying to put together an organization to find extraterrestrial intelligence. So if I introduce the two of you, would you be willing to do a benefit concert for him? Because right now he's struggling to get money together. And Maurice said yes. So we tracked down Carl Sagan's summer cottage telephone number. And I put together a conference call between Maurice White and, oh God, what's his name again? Billions and billions and billions of planets. Carl Sagan.
Yeah.
And as soon as Carl got wind of where Maurice was coming from, pseudoscience, the conversation was over, because Carl was already gambling too much on ideas that could get him totally laughed out of science. So it was unfortunate, but that was the early 1980s, probably about 1980.
Didn't he want to sit down with Maurice and sort of explain what we know so far?
No, he
was
couldn't
Maurice's
afford.
Stuff? Was Zachariah Sitchin
It's
stuff?
all kinds of. It's everywhere.
Right.
You can find it all over the place.
But did he have like a source?
Not that I asked him. No,
Just
I was too
like
busy
he
trying to
just
put this thing together. And it was unfortunate. Yes, it would have been neat if the two of them had been able to sit down and talk.
The Joe Rogan Experience.
Yeah, but I think that there's just very little that people really, the level of understanding that people have. Like, imagine the fact that we were fucking around with like nuclear bombs like 70 years ago. Like, no one even really knew what was happening. It's just like accidental, like just dropping them all the time in the ocean.
Oh yeah,
It's like fucking
the
crazy.
videos are insane.
Dude, nuts.
I showed them to a friend of mine the other night at dinner. Like, this is what it looked like. And you see the look on his face when the fucking mile-high wall of water comes out of the ocean.
Oh my God.
It's so big, it doesn't even make sense.
To the best.
Like,
Right,
holy fuck.
right now, we're talking about this Russian hypersonic missile. And like, can you believe this weapon that like Russia has? Like, I was like, wait a second. The U.S. spends like 10 to 20 times the amount of money on weapons than Russia does. We have all that shit. I mean, but the hypersonic missile, I mean, that's probably what those UFOs, quote unquote UFOs from the videos that were circulating a couple of years are just like, because those things are fucking crazy, man. The ramjet shit,
Yeah.
that. But it's crazy. Is like Art Bell. When we used to drive on tour back in the day, like it'd be like we'd listen to Coast at night. There's nothing else, but you could find that scary ass shit, and you'd be looking over like the, Arizona skyline, like looking for shit.
Drive in the middle of the night.
Hearing
Listen
this-
to all this and best.
And like around the time that's when Art Bell's like family got captured. Like, what the fuck is going on? And George Norrie would come on, and then they were talking about ramjets and all kinds of shit. Like, I mean, that shit. It's actually, I think the ramjets what the powers the SR-71. Like, essentially, like it takes a whole tank of fuel to get that thing just up and going, like Mach 1 or 2, whatever, and then they have to refuel it to get it like ramming, whatever. So, but like those.
So they refuel them in the sky?
Yeah, it takes a whole tank to get them where they need to
That's
go.
the wildest shit ever. Pumping gas in the sky.
Dude, if you see the potential of these hypersonic missiles, dude, they like without even a warhead, they have like a megaton explosion just from the velocity of the speed. They can go like Mach 15 or something.
And they can change course.
Yeah.
They can't just predict, this one's going to go to Seattle. No, it can turn left. You can go south.
You know that scene in like it's like Superman 2 where they have the ICBM and like he's like riding it, like dude, that's fucking insane.
I think you're right. That's probably a lot of what those UFO sightings were. I think a lot of the other ones are drones, like the ones like the famous one is that Tic Tac one that they found off the coast of San Diego. I think in 2004, Commander David Fravor saw this object that they had tracked. They even recalibrated their device apparently to make sure that it was accurate. But they read this thing at more than 50,000 feet above sea level, and it got down to 50 feet in less than a second.
Yeah.
And they don't know what it is, and they followed it around with their jets. And then the people on the Nimitz said, we've been seeing these for a couple weeks. These like super credible naval pilots, guys who really understand like what's possible and not possible. And they watch these things dart off and just vanish with the kind of speed that like is just impossible. No propulsion signature. It doesn't like show that like anything's coming out the back like a normal jet. It just looks like a Tic Tac, and it goes at an impossible speed. Like, what the fuck is that? That might be a drone. It might be some crazy fucking drone that they've been working on for decades, just not telling us about.
Oh, for.
When I saw the Pentagon was talking about UFOs, and they were talking about things from alien worlds, I'm like, yeah, really? Or maybe you guys have been making some cool fucking shit, and you don't want everybody to know.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, yeah, it's not us. We don't have any hypersonic fucking UFO-looking Tic Tacs.
Back to Phil Hartman when he does the unfrozen caveman lawyer. He's like, I'm not familiar with your modern ways, this legal system, but I do know my client's entitled to $3.5 million in punitive damages. It's like, it's alien technology. We don't know where it's
Why
from.
would the Pentagon ever tell us? Because I always wondered, like, because Tom DeLonge, he actually worked with the government. Like, they brought him in to talk about aliens because he's that much of an alien freak. And I think they thought that would like help, you know.
Dude, he told me he was like, they're cloaked. They're all above us. They're cloaked and they're scanning. And honestly, what he was describing was like satellites tapping into all of our phones and listening to everything we do, which is I think actually happening.
Yeah, but they don't even satellites to do that.
No,
they get right into the system. They can listen to everything you say. That's Gavin DeBecker, who's a security expert on my podcast, was explaining. You used to have a clickable link. It used to be a thing you had to click, and then you would accidentally, without your knowledge, rather download some sort of a software that would take over your phone. Now they don't need that. So now they just need your phone number. They get your phone number. They're just listening to you. They're watching everything you do. They can do whatever they want now.
Dude, imagine the stupid conversations that these people have to listen to.
Yeah, well, it makes more aware of how fucking stupid your conversations are if you think they can come up in a trial with Johnny Depp and Amber Heard.
Oh, my God.
That kind of shit, when you realize, like, oh, my God, like, everything you've ever said.
And he's now reading, like,
text messages and shit.
The vessel I donated my jizz to.
The Joe Rogan Experience.
Now, when you came back, and what do you do with this information? Do you report it? Do you talk to people about it?
The typical process, anytime we fly, everything gets debriefed. So because it was a two-seat airplane, usually the junior person in the jet goes down. So I was the boss, so I wasn't going down there. So we have a thing called CVIC, which is the Carrier Intel Center. So they go down. We always take our tapes because we record stuff when we're fighting. They take it down, and it's really to exercise the system when we're in training so that when we actually get over to, in this case, we were going over to the Persian Gulf, you know, anything that we do comes in and gets debriefed, and then it all gets sent off. That's how you get the CNN video and all that. So they go down and they debrief, and they have to tell, hey, we chased this object. We don't know what it is, you know, and of course, everyone now is going to make jokes because we know we're going to catch shit because that's how the Navy works, you know.
Right.
And I told him, I said, I remember telling the guy in my back seat, I said, dude, you know, we're going to catch maximum shit for this. And he goes, yes, sir. I'll show you the comics. I have them on my phone. We do. The airplane comes out. So we know it's going to come down. So he goes in, they debrief this. Both crews go in. And of course, everyone at Intel thinks this is hilarious. So the flight, you know, Chad comes in with his tapes, you know, when he lands. And here's the thing. Oh, VFA 41. Haha, you guys see any UFOs out there? And he pulls out that tape and drops it on the counter. He goes, yeah, it's on here. So they're like, oh, shit. So they copy it. They play it, and there's a big, it looks like a rack system. They put the 8 mil in. It gets copied to a hard drive. And then they archive it. So you go, okay. So they got this video. And then, you know, the ship, this spreads, you know, if you have a rumor on the ship, 5,000 people are going to know about it within probably 30 minutes. I mean, it spreads that. It's like a virus. So the whole ship now knows that we chased this. I guarantee the whole Princeton knew this stuff was going on. And it goes all the way up. The admiral knows about it. The captain of the ship knew about it. And then all the movies, because they play movies for us on the ship, and they run like a 12-hour loop. So, of course, the movie selection is Men in Black 2, Signs, Independence Day, and we know we're going to be on the airplane comic because there's always a comic. So you do something stupid or like this, then you're going to be on the comic. I'll show you the comics here in a little bit. Okay. They're pretty funny. But you know, so that went on for 2 days. But, you know, we're in the middle of workups. And I got a squadron to run. So it's like, you know, after about the first day and a half, it really died down. And then there's always that closet people that you don't think that are really like UFO buffs. And, you know, like we had one of the Marines would always come and he'd sit down. Hey, Skipper, can I sit with you? I go, you want to talk about the UFO? He goes, yeah, I can't get it out of my mind. And then we would just sit there and talk about it. You know, and to me it was like, you know, we were just saying, you know, my entire now flying career is defined by 5 minutes of chasing this white Tic Tac, vice almost 4,000 hours, you know, flying. So
Now, do you encounter anyone else that had a similar experience?
I've talked to a couple of guys from the East Coast event, the gimbal video. One of them I talked to daily. He's a pretty good friend of mine. Totally different now. Keep in mind, ours is 2004. The gimbal video is 2015. The funny part about the gimbal video and the East Coast stuff that was going on, because that's off the Vacape, so off the coast of the United States, they're called warning areas, and all they are is if you look on an aviation map, they're these big areas that are blocked off by blue, and they say like Whiskey 291 or Whiskey 243. And
is the gimbal video available in the same way that video is available?
yes.
Yeah, government owned.
Okay, find that, Jamie.
So, and I was talking to him about it because I actually, a buddy of mine, he just retired. He was he led the fighter wing on the East Coast, and I had called him up because we start finding out that these things were so prevalent out off the East Coast of the United States, and there's a couple of them. So there's and we're going to talk. What they started seeing originally was these things, and one of them an airplane almost hit one of these things, but it looks like a cube inside of a clear beach ball. So they don't know if it's actually like a surrounding or you don't know if it's a force field. And you see kind of in the gimbal video, it's got like an aura around it where ours didn't. I always laugh. I go, ours was a Tic Tac. These are not. That means there's different stuff out there that we don't know. But they had 2 airplanes flying, and we fly when we go out to train. We have a distance. You know, we'll just say we're, you know, a mile apart. As we're flying out, so they're flying out, and the airplanes are deployed. We call it combat spread, and one of the airplanes almost hits one of these, goes close down like 50 feet down the side, and almost hits one of these floating cubes inside of the beach ball. And someone goes, "Wow, it's a balloon." It's not a balloon. I mean, these things are literally sitting still. They're no effect from the wind. So if you got 90 knots of wind, and they talk about it, these things are just sitting there. So 60 or 70 people had seen it because the radars, the newer radar in the Super Hornets is extremely, extremely capable. Okay. And at first when they started seeing stuff, they were like, it's just like, maybe it's the radar just giving me a false target. That radar really doesn't give false targets. And then someone did exactly what Chad did, is they threw their targeting flare out there, and all of a sudden when you see a heat signature, there's a return, there's obviously something out where that blip is at.
What is a targeting flare?
That's we call it the AT flare. It's an advanced targeting flare. It sits on the left side of the airplane, and it's
so you launch it like a flare?
No, it's a FLIR, forward-looking infrared receiver.
Oh,
so it's when you see the bombs blowing up on TV, and that looks like a black and white, and you see it fly. That's the targeting pod.
Okay.
It's got a laser in it. It's got an IR marker in it. It's a very capable system that syncs up to the Hornet, so everything kind of marries up. So this is the Go Fast. No, this is Go Fast.
That's not it.
No, it's the other one.
No, it's the one that looks like the.
What is that one?
That's called the Go Fast. That looks like a Tic Tac, and that was another one taken off the East Coast. But they grab it, and
bookmark that one.
It's screaming across the ocean at a very high rate of speed. And there's been some debunkers that say, well, it's really not going that fast. It's just the way the airplane is and how the mechanics of the pod are working. When you talk to the crew, because it's actually, I could ask my bud, I'm pretty sure it's the same backseater took both of these videos. Took the Go Fast video and took the gimbal video. And my buddy was on the flight with the gimbal video. But these things, so I called my bud because I'm like, hey, how many people are seeing these things? They're like 60 or 70.
60 or 70.
16 these things on radar. And I said, well, what do you do? And they said, well, we put out a NOTAM, which is a notice to airmen that just says, hey, these things are out there, so just be careful because we don't want you to hit one. Yeah.
Whoa.
And it's kind of like ours. You go, because you would ask, who do you tell? Well, everyone knows. Well, what do you do? And I said, well, because it was all white and it didn't have any markings on it and it didn't have any wings and it didn't have any rotors and it outperformed anything that we have. I think if I would have painted China or Russia on the side.
Is this the gimbal video?
Yes.
Okay.
So it's the same pod.
Start from the beginning, Jamie?
What we're looking at. And when the crew finds it, now what you're not seeing, you're seeing the targeting. When you hear them start talking, when you listen to the video, you'll hear the guy go, dude, look, they're all over. Look at the SA page. So we have a situational awareness page, and whatever the radar is getting returns on, it'll show up. It's kind of like our God's eye view in the airplane. So the pod can only look at one thing. So he designates that as his primary target. So that's where the pod is staring. The radar is still seeing everything else. So what they're actually seeing in this video is when you see the object that he's tracking, when I was talking to one of the other pilots, he said there's actually, when you see the radar video, there's like it almost looks like a formation in front of them, like 5 smaller ones that are moving in front of it. And then they turn. So like a formation, these things turns and starts going the other way. And then while they're filming the gimbal video. And that's kind of the comms when you hear, dude, holy cow, look, they're all over.
This is unreported new information that he's actually saying right now. Everybody knows this video. This is the one that they say turns like the Lazar craft, like belly first. However, what he's telling you right now is something that is not public yet. He's telling you that there was a V formation of other objects that the public has yet to see.
You're not going to.
You're not going to.
It's a radar tape.
But
you're not going to.
There were more objects surrounding this, is what he's telling you right now, which is fascinating because the world doesn't know that yet. That's brand new. That's never been reported by New York Times, anybody.
Okay.
So you can go ahead and hit play. So the cool thing with this is, when he goes into, so he's in IR mode right now. You're still seeing no plume. He's looking 47, so they're actually turning into it. So it's starting to pull it back towards the nose. See how the number at the top is decreasing? And it's against the wind. Now he's in TV mode, and this thing's going to just start to roll. And you can kind of see it's got that aura around it.
Mm-hmm.
He said they were saying that the ones with the squares inside that look like the beach ball were the same. And this thing's just hanging out. So it's on the airplane's in a left-hand turn, and it's now it's right in front. Yeah, it's just rotating.
Now this is how Lazar.
Yes.
Don't put that. Right. Lazar described that these things would lay flat, and then when they would travel, they would turn up on their side, and that's how they maneuvered. So this is very similar.
Eerily similar to the propulsion system that Lazar talked about, and that's why this video, we're seeing it very differently now, especially with what we know about Lazar. But the idea is that it would fly belly first in high speed mode. So if they have, these are gravity propelled. This is something that's known within the government. They're trying to back engineer it. They're trying to understand it. We know there's a program currently that they said is gone. However, it is currently active to study this. These things will turn belly first, these saucer type looking ones. And then that's the high speed mode because they focus, allegedly, these gravity wave amplifiers. Look, this thing turns mechanically. There, again, no typical form of propulsion, as an expert is telling you. This is not a glitch. This is seen by multiple radars, multiple people. Commander Fravor was so close to it. This is something that is not aerodynamic, and it could move in ways and fashions. When he's underplaying it, when we first talked, the idea of this thing going, bup, 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 it's instantaneous acceleration back and forth. There's no slowing down, no turning, like a ping pong ball. He said to me, our first talk, ping pong ball in a glass. Nothing moves like that with traditional reactionary propulsion. Somebody has technology that we don't have in our inventory at all.
So this is counterintuitive. It goes from being aerodynamic to being unaerodynamic when it goes sideways, and it flies belly forward.
That's correct. Well, it's not. It's if you talk, because I was just talking to the guy the other day, and he said the irony with this is these things would be out there for hours. We don't have, a high performance airplane does not have hours worth of gas. I mean, Hornets, if we don't have aerial refueling, and we're actually out doing a mission and fighting and going fast, you're talking hour and a half, and you're coming back to land. Some airplanes are even less, based on their size. So like an F-16 doesn't have external fuel tanks. It doesn't have a lot of gas. And the Soviet airplanes are the same way. The MiG-29 does not have a lot of gas. The Su-27, Su-30s have
because
a lot
of
gas.
weight, because of
its weight, performance,
size
of the airplane. So even our intercontinental bombers like B-2, they still take off and they aero refuel. They keep topped off so they can get to range. That's how we extend things. You got something like this that's coming down. Just think of the physics. So I'll use my incident because that's the one I really know the best. Is you've got an object coming from above 80,000 feet. So I'll just tell you that 80,000, it's somewhere around 70 to 80,000 feet is where you can actually start to see the curvature of the Earth. So that's considered space. So they're coming from above that. They're coming straight down. They stop at around 20,000 feet. They hang out for 3 hours, and then they go straight back up. So, and I know you had Elon on the show. So SpaceX is really excited because they can launch a rocket and then they can have the booster come back to Earth and actually land on a pad. Very impressive engineering feat. Next to this technology, That's like a Model T next to a Porsche. I mean, it's like, wow, really? That's it? You know, and you got something that can just at will move around. Now take it to the next level, and I know there's a lot of talk about this, so Dave's going to go into speculation mode. But when you take a shape like that, so just take the Tic Tac shape, which is shaped like a submarine. If you're using a propulsion that's non-reactive, where you're just manipulating the medium that you're in, air, whatever, you can go into the water. So when you hear all the reports of, hey, we've seen these things since World War II that would come out of the water and fly. If you have a technology like this, as long as the object is sealed where you're not going to get water inside of it, there's nothing that says you can't do that. Because all you're doing is you're not, where a jet engine sucks in air and blows it out the back, or a propeller actually pushes the water, it's a force. Now you've got something that's actually manipulating the gravity field, and it's just moving through a void.
Whoa.
Then air, you could literally, in theory, fly, go into the ocean, cruise around, pop back up, fly around, go to space. You remove the barriers of the normal propulsion that we have today.
The Joe Rogan Experience.
With Grush, I think, here's my take on it. I think he believes what he's saying, right? I think he has gone out there. I think I'm legit. Like, he was a 14-year veteran of military and National Reconnaissance Office, and I think he went out and he talked to enough people, and he believes it. I don't think he's out there like spinning a yarn and is worried that now he's gotten over his skis and he's said too many things, and now I don't know. I don't feel like it's tidy, and maybe the difference between us is I spent a lot of time with the government, and the government is sometimes can be really, really dysfunctional, and it goes back to keeping a secret. The idea that they could have this what essentially is a covert action campaign, to spread disinformation about what they actually know, right? When the easier thing to do is just to have the program, if it's the U.S. government's development of technology, right, and we're doing this, to have the program and just keep your yap shut about it, not go for a disinformation campaign, not try to muddy the waters by doing this, because in a sense, you're just creating more conversation around it. You're creating, now there's a little bit of a, movement within Congress to say, we have to do this, now we have to. So they're going to look perhaps for a misappropriation of funds, right? Because they're not going to pursue like the UAP issue necessarily, right? But they might be interested in pursuing misappropriation of funds. So if you're running a program, if it didn't, again, going back to the idea that it's a U.S. government thing, if you're running a program, that's the last thing you want to do, is because you're doing this program to avoid government oversight. You're not going to create this alternative narrative that, could generate the sort of publicity or the conversation, particularly up on Capitol Hill, that causes them to then start looking and saying, well, where is money being spent?
Right.
Right? Because there is a trail there, and that could cause a problem.
What are your instincts when you look at it? If I'm looking at it, I'm saying something's wrong, it seems like bullshit. What are your instincts?
I think I would like to, I don't think we're going to get there. But my instinct is to say, how do we solve this, or how do we come to some sort of logical resolution, as opposed to saying what is it right off the bat. My instinct is to say, all right, if the all domain anomaly resolution office has 800 cases, then tell us what those 800 cases are. Let's work our way through them, or have a little bit more transparency about working through those cases. Again, you'll probably whittle them down, right, to – we were doing Black Files and we were going around talking to people about, various sightings and things. You're basically just crossing things off, going, okay, that was this, that was this, that was this. You find some pretty mundane answers, but you whittle it down to maybe one or two things that you can't explain, and then you can investigate those and say, okay, well, all right, let's dig further on these. But right now it's just like all over the map, and they've got so many cases, and they just kind of lump it all together. Are they doing that to obfuscate and create, this this situation where it does seem like bullshit, and I don't know, but I think I'm not willing to shut the door on saying that those handful of those few sightings that where we do have technical data, we got video, we got radar lock, we got gun camera footage, whatever it may be, that can't be explained. I'm not willing to close the door and saying, well, it's is it, because who knows? Maybe China's doing the same thing. Oh, we're leading the hypersonic race right now. Great, but they've got another program, and they were responsible for the Tic Tac, right? So we have to pursue it, and if that leads us to the doorstep that says, oh, that's a U.S. government program and they've developed the technology, okay, fine. But I realize that, I'm not willing to close the door on saying it could be something else. It could be otherworldly, right? Because I just don't know.
It could be.
I just don't know.
There is
who knows?
That problem of the infinite nature of space, which seems to actually be getting bigger.
Yeah, there was a way of putting it that my wife, who's a hell of a lot smarter than I am, tried to explain it to me, and I kept looking at it like this. But she had heard a program at one point where the person explained it like, okay, imagine how vast the ocean is, right? And how we've explored the ocean, but then you look at space and how immense it is, right, compared to the ocean, right?
Right.
The amount that we've explored in space, right, is equivalent to like a wine glass full of ocean water, right? So you take a wine glass full of ocean water, you look at it and you go, there's nothing there, right? There's all those life forms, there's all those fish in the sea. It's kind of like that. And then you think about space and you think about what we know and what we don't know, and how we imagine, like our limited capacity to imagine what life outside of Earth could look like. Right. So yeah.
But when you talk of like crashed retrieval programs,
yeah, that keeps taking me back, and is to this whole idea of if there was a crash retrieval and reverse engineering program like David Grush talked about and had been in existence for decades. Somebody would have fucking opened their yap and talked about it. I think
other than Bob Lazar.
Other than Bob Lazar, and they would have had some better specifics, right? I mean, that's always the thing. It's always where it falls down. Well, I haven't seen it, but I talked to somebody who knows that it exists, right? And I think maybe it's because we're human, we're programmed to actually want physical evidence, right? We want to actually see it before we believe it. But that really hasn't happened yet.
What's one of the things that's fascinating is the narrative has shifted so wildly from it's completely preposterous to credible people like David Fravor and Ryan Graves and all these different people that are talking about multiple sightings, things that completely defy our understanding of what a vehicle is capable of doing, hovering completely motionless in 120 knot winds, all the whole, whatever that thing is, the cube inside a sphere that they keep seeing over and over again.
Right.
Like,
almost hit one of the aircraft.
Yeah.
And,
the fuck is that?
Yeah. And then they land. So I think, one of the good developments out of all of this, and one of the things that may eventually lead to transparency, right? Because it will provide an avenue for these sightings, whether it's commercial or military pilots, as an example, to report it. Right, and to be more, and for the government to take it, perhaps, again, it depends on whether it's a big conspiracy or not, to investigate in a more logical manner and in a more detailed manner. So I think just again the sheer act that we're talking about it, which then takes me back to the idea that if you're running a secret program, you don't want people talking about it, so you're not going to muddy the waters with a false narrative if you don't have to. Right. If your concern is that someone's getting close to the truth and you got to do, okay, then maybe so. But,
Do you think it's also possible there are patriots that do think that the American public deserves to know about this information and they have been sitting on it for a long time? That people like David Grush and all these various that are coming out, and more apparently are wanting to come out.
Yeah. Well, interesting thing with Grush is, look, he said so during the hearing, right? He said, I can't talk about that. I could talk about it in a skiff, right? In a sensitive, secure environment. All right. Well, if I'm, one of the people on that subcommittee, I'm going to say, you know what, to my staff, schedule, a skiff meeting with Grush. Get him in here, and let's, have him talk classified shit.
Right.
So that would be the next logical step in all of this.
Have they done that yet?
I don't know. I mean, it's,
When he said, I could talk to you about it in a skiff, have people taken him up on that?
Well, you'd have to ask him. No, I wouldn't know.
Right, and they wouldn't tell anybody.
And therein lies part of the problem, because if he sits there but if he sits in the skiff and continues to kind of say, well, okay, I don't, you guys aren't clear to hear this, and I can't. All right. Then you got to start questioning, what he's actually got or what he knows for sure, rather than just having this witness interviews and sort of secondhand information. But I'm much more. I guess the point is I'm much more interested in the direct sightings than witness interviews. Right.
Right. And the thing about he's not really a witness. Right. He hasn't had any personal encounters with anything. Right. He hasn't had personal encounter with a craft. He hasn't seen a retrieved craft. He hasn't seen the biological entities. These are all just programs that he's been made aware of that he felt like people needed to know about. That's the narrative. And I,
again, not to disparage anybody, right? I mean, look, he's, if in fact, somebody leaked his medical records, which it looks like, did happen, right? Then that's pretty bullshit. Mm-hmm. Somebody needs to figure out what the hell is happening.
Let's see this. The information from Grush, who was unable to discuss specifics on what he told the Pentagon's watchdog arm. Lawmakers want to sit down with the former official in a sensitive, compartmented information facility, a SCIF, to get additional information from him. The group has been blocked, however, by officials that have informed them that Grush doesn't currently have security clearance to discuss the issues in a SCIF, according to Burchett. We think that we'll get there eventually. It's just frustrating. I'm ready to go, and the American public are ready to go, he said. Luna argued that the SCIF with Grush could help lawmakers better understand the type of legislation they need to write regarding UAPs. She said she supports legislation that would declassify information on the phenomenon. So there seems to be some issue of secrecy and what possible to discuss or legal to discuss.
Well, yeah, look, the government casts a very wide net when you're talking about classified information. Right. I mean, the government has overclassified information for decades and decades, right? And you've got secret, top secret, code word, and they tend to just hoover everything up and classify it, right? And then it takes fucking forever, right, to go through that process of declassification, and because nobody wants to put their neck out at that point and say, yeah, let's declassify this, right? Once it's in that pot, But the question is, great, you're saying, you can talk about it in the SCIF. Well, damn it, then that's the next, that's what the subcommittee should be doing. Right? That's their job, right? If they're curious, right? And if they're sincere about trying to get to the bottom of this, and that's theoretically their job, then they should, because again, going back to the main thing, and people can say, well, why are you wasting your time on this? But you can always circle back to the top line, which is, it's for national security purposes. We want to know what the hell's going on.
Right.
And if so... Yeah, we'll see. I guess that's the question that should be thrown at Grush, or should be thrown at the subcommittee members.
I'm also shocked how few people care. I feel like people are so overloaded with information today because of social media and because of the news cycle. People are so overloaded with information that this barely registered on people other than UFO nuts.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there was a surprising amount, I thought, anyway, of sort of mainstream media coverage. It wasn't particularly deep, right? It just kind of covered, okay, it was a hearing. And I think they did it because, it's UFOs or UAPs, right? Mm-hmm. And so, they knew they'd get some clicks on it if they were putting it online or whatever. And they didn't pursue it, like has been I haven't seen any stories that talked about the follow-up with Grush. There were a couple of stories talking about the fact that perhaps his medical records were leaked, as a result.
And the medical records showed what? That he had some sort of a psychiatric condition? That he had an event or something like that?
PTSD, I think he, some suicidal depression issues.
Standard stuff with military veterans.
He had done his time in Afghanistan, right? And so that doesn't, it means nothing, except for the fact that it shouldn't be out there, right? The records should be damn well private.
Well, not only isn't that what we want, why don't you shut your little dinger off there, fella?
Is that me going?
Yeah, that's why your phone rang,
too. What the hell? God,
you got to learn how to use that little switch on the side. But
thank you for my IT lesson.
Isn't that what you want from? I mean, that's the whole purpose of providing these services for veterans. That when they do have suicidal thoughts and they are struggling with PTSD, that they get help. I mean, the idea that they're shaming him and saying that his report is not credible because of this seems It's
bullshit.
ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's totally bullshit.
Yeah, and he said he's come out since and said, look, I did help. I'm in a better place. And he was happy that people were talking about it. They should be talking about
Yes.
it. Look, we lose a shocking number of veterans to suicide,
Yes.
right? And it's disgusting that we don't, that the government doesn't work harder at this, right? And
Right.
spend more effort. I know a couple of people who do amazingly good work at the VA in terms of counselors, right? They're not managers, they're not executives. They work with the veterans every day, right? And it's incredible what they do. But overall, as a government, our assistance, right, to veterans. You look at the number of homeless it's pathetic. And so when he talks about it, it's good that he's talking about it, right? I think that transparency helps, and he clearly views it that way too. And he said, look, I don't have any problem with discussing it, but we should be concerned by the fact that somehow his medical records were put out there. And then, some people will look at that and go, well, is that the government's effort to discredit him? Or is that somebody's effort to discredit him? I don't know why anybody else why would you do that?
I got home from the Comedy Store at like 2, and then I watched some goofy. I've been on this UFO documentary kick.
Watching UFO documentaries?
Yeah, I told you it was David. I started talking about it.
Yeah,
but,
we were talking about that.
yeah.
What were you? Did you have something specific that you saw recently?
Yeah,
the documentary.
2 of them. One of them is Area 51, Bob Lazar, and Area 51 and flying saucers. It's a documentary on this guy who claimed that he worked on these alien ships in Area 51 in the 1980s.
That gave me chills.
As time's gone on, more of the things that he said have proven to actually be true.
Like what?
Including an element that he talked about, element 115, I think it was called.
Like an organism from space?
No, an element, like a man-created element, like this carbon.
Right.
And, there's an element that they created that he talked about way before it was ever publicized. And he talked about this thing, and then it turned out to be true. He talked about these, there's these hand monitors that you would put your hand on this thing, and these metal lines would detect the distances in the bones of your fingers, the exact distances, and everyone is different. It's like a signature thing. Mm-hmm. And that they could find out if it was you or not you that was trying to go through. So the way they would scan people, the bioscan, would literally measure the bones in their fingers. And people said that was horseshit.
Wild.
He talked about this in the 1980s. People said it was horseshit, but then later on turned out, no, they did have that in Los Alamos. They did have that in Area 51, and that this technology was very, very
advanced.
Not just very advanced, but it was not well known at all. Like very few people did. And this guy who was creator of this documentary, it was very difficult for them to get photos of this hand scanner. But this hand scanner did exist and existed exactly as this guy described it.
In the 80s, that's super progressive for that time.
There's also
even
people
for now.
that did approve his top secret clearance to get to this place. They know that he actually worked there. There's people that worked in the same Los Alamos lab with him. They tried to say he never worked there, but his name's on the manifest. It's very strange. It's like they've tried to erase parts of this guy's past because he filmed a bunch of their crafts as they were flying around. Like he knew what days. This is the thing. That thing right there, you put your hand on that, and it actually measures the distance of the size and length of your bones.
That looks like something that's inside of an escape room in L.A.
It does. Hilarious. It's so true. But I went into this documentary skeptical.
As you should.
Yeah, but I'm so done with all those things. But listen to this guy talk for a while. After a while, I was like, what if he's telling the truth? Like, what if he is actually telling the truth? Because if he's actually telling the truth, there is some part of the government that had access, at least in the 1980s, to alien technology.
It probably is. There probably is to that. Crazier things have happened. And also, like, just your mentality of believing him is probably the same thing that made Dr. Malachi Lovejoy Robinson III become successful.
Connor?
Yeah. Either there's validity of what he's saying in this documentary, which I can't wait to watch, or he's just really great at painting a picture. Some people are so good at convincing you
That's true.
of truths.
True.
There's, people with like borderline personality disorder and every sort of spectrum in between there. They become really good manipulators.
That is true. However, usually they do that more than one avenue.
Absolutely.
And this guy's not doing that.
Yeah. So if
He's
it's just
really-
a documentary, then
Yeah, it hasn't varied his story. Like, I mean, he might have like changed the way he says things in terms of like the words he chooses, but the actual story is exactly the same as he was telling a long time ago.
Is this a self-produced documentary, or is there a production involved?
No, production company.
See, that's where
involved.
it's like, okay, there's probably some validity to this.
But this guy around for a long time. I remember reading about him and watching videos about him, 20 years ago.
I mean, don't you think you're somebody who you said you know, and I know this about you. You love space. You're obsessed with that. The idea of what we are in the solar system and beyond. Like, how impossible is it to think that there could be a creature that could breach our atmosphere with some advanced technology and be able to just sort of chill, scoot around, scoots, magoots, check us out, and fucking peace out back up to wherever they're from.
I don't think that's how they would do it, but yeah, I know what you're saying.
Exactly. They scoots,
magoots.
Yeah, they just kind of cruise around, they're looking at us.
Well, he had an interesting
Little
analogy.
reconnaissance.
He said if you brought a atomic engine to these people that lived in the Victorian era and said, "Hey, this is a nuclear power plant. Like here, check this out." They would fuck with it. They'd wind up getting sick from radiation. They'd wind up dying. No one would understand what it was or how it worked. They would never figure it out.
Right.
He goes, "Why would we assume that this is only from that one time with this one device? Why wouldn't we assume that there'd be some other technology that maybe we'll create someday in the future?" I'm paraphrasing him very poorly.
Yes, it's okay.
Or someone
You're a
else
scientist.
from another planet would create that we wouldn't understand at all. And he said, and that's what we were dealing with when we were trying to back engineer the propulsion systems that these things use. They use some gravity-based propulsion system. And it was something that would manipulate gravity in front of it. It's very, look, I'm too stupid to know the science of it. I don't know if he's if you were
You're
a scientist.
You're supposed to know these things.
Not yet. I have to get my degree.
Joseph
I need to
Rogan.
get a degree so I can call myself a doctor. I just want to get an honorary one like Cosby had.
Why? It's gone. Oh, he doesn't have it. He doesn't have it anymore.
Back.
They
The
took that
honorary
shit
ones
back.
they could take back.
Yeah, take them back. He can't keep those.
Yeah.
He can't keep that.
Actually, I think he wrote an essay, and that's how they gave him his doctorate. But that's
mean,
neither here nor there.
gross.
Probably got more than one doctorate.
I'm sure he did, and he didn't deserve them. But I think, there's got
100%.
100%.
But I like to say there's not. It's like, stop.
You think
Stop
this is just
dwelling
it?
No, I don't think it is. But it is entirely possible. I use that phrase too often.
And it's entirely possible.
Yeah.
You got to get a
I gotta get
mashup
a
of
new
all
one.
of those.
Oh, see out there. Yeah, it's hilarious. It's like 50,000 of them.
That needs to be on a shirt.
It's possible that we're the most advanced. That's possible
It is a possibility.
too, because something has to be the most advanced.
Absolutely, and something has to be. We could also be on that part of the spectrum.
Sure.
Maybe we're the last to evolve.
100% possible.
And
Like if there's an infinite number of life forms out there, like if there's an infinite number of planets and there's an infinite number of Earth-like planets that can have beings like us on it, who's to say that we're not the most advanced? Maybe they're all like people from the 1820s.
Yeah, they're
They
still
haven't caught up to us yet.
chiseling shit. They're still
Chiseled in the
stone and
1820s.
chisels. But I'm talking like old shit. They don't even have pens and papers yet.
Like the orangutan that was fishing with a spear.
There's just a
Yeah.
bunch of advanced orangutans that are like, putting hieroglyphics in caves.
It's possible.
It is very possible.
It's totally possible.
But because we're just basing it off of our own experience and
Right.
perception of what we have been exposed to. No idea.
The other really interesting scenario is that they're time travelers.
Ooh. That's
that
really that's exciting to think
what
about.
they are is some being from the far distant future that understands that it could come back and observe us and see like where things went wrong, where things went right, but do so in a way that's as minimally intrusive as possible and occasionally interfere with things.
The Joe Rogan Experience.
Kyle Kalinske sent me something I wanted you to see, Jamie. It's there's some shit going down with UFO sightings.
Oh yeah,
I guess those videos have played before.
Well, yeah,
I
but
don't know that they were new. But
here
they're
I'll
on-
send it to you.
I've been following this stuff.
Yeah, it's hold on a second, Jamie.
This thing.
All right, I just texted it to you. Pentagon officially releases UFO. This is the tweet. It says, new Pentagon formally released 3 mysterious UFO videos captured by Navy pilots. The already leaked videos showed what DoD insists on calling unidentified aerial phenomenon. moving at incredible speeds and performing near impossible maneuvers. This is a weird subject because it's one of those subjects where people automatically dismiss it because it's been so touted by kooks. There's so many wacky fucks that have talked about UFOs that anybody talking about UFOs has to be out of their fucking mind. But then when you see these videos and you see them performing these possible tasks, like these things are moving in a way that we've never seen anything move before, flipping upside down and sideways, moving at insane rates of speed. Like, they don't know what these are.
Yeah.
Real phenomena.
What's interesting, though, is I was reading one of these stories, and they passively mentioned that the sighting was near a U.S. naval technology station of some sort, like a top secret development. And I'm like,
that could be one of two things. Either it's developed by the people that are at that base, or they're monitoring the people that are at that base. These aircraft, we call them aircraft, are displaying characteristics that are not currently within the U.S. inventory nor any foreign inventory that we are aware of. Maybe they see this shit that's going down with China and all the ships being moved and like, listen, you fuckheads.
The aliens?
Yeah. Maybe they're like, listen, you fucking morons, you territorial apes.
I'd like to think that, but...
You don't think so?
Manhattan Project, man. I mean, the U.S. has got some crazy motherfucking weapons. You know?
Could be, but the Manhattan Project was also, coincidentally, right after they started detonating bombs when the aliens started showing up.
That's what they think, right?
Yeah, well, that was when the bulk of U.S. sightings started jumping. And wide, I believe, too.
You know, maybe we've slowly been getting more and more information about this. I've been actually reading a lot of these stories over the past several months. More admissions from government, more release of documents, and more sightings. So there's been a big, I don't want to call it, well, a lot of people murmuring that April was going to be the month when we finally learn the truth.
It's almost up.
It's almost up.
We got like a few days.
Nah, man.
The 27th?
You know what I used?
More days is left.
Do you know?
30?
Do you know about what happened? Do you know about the O'Hare Airport sighting?
Which one's that?
So this was, I think, in like 2006 at Chicago's International O'Hare. A UFO came down and hovered above. I can't remember which terminal it was. It hovered for a few minutes, I think, and then shot straight, punched a hole in the clouds. Everybody saw it happen. Now, I had just quit working at O'Hare around this time when the sighting happened. So I had friends who were still there. I had a friend tell me that when this UFO came down, people on Mannheim Road, which is the road on the side of O'Hare, got out of their cars, like just stopped at the light, got up, and were looking and staring at it. And that the people who were working, where we worked for American Eagle Airlines, walked out of the rooms and were just staring at it float and then shoot up and punch a hole in the clouds. And you know what they said? Weather phenomenon. So there's a photo of it. A pilot took a photo of it. This is back when like very early phone cameras, so it's a very grainy, awful picture.
There it is right there.
That's not it. No, that's super fake. I think no. These are all people trying to fake. It's really hard to find. That one is not. That one might be it, but I don't think so. It barely looks like
Chicago
anything.
O'Hare UFO sighting 2006. Is that it right there?
I do not believe those are it. No. So
click on that article. See what it says, Jamie.
That's just some blog.
That one might be on the left, but so many people try exploiting this stuff for clicks and for views, and they make these fake photos. And
that link's not working?
I've clicked on it a few times.
It was a very, very faint photo from the cockpit. It might be that one right there in the middle. On the left side.
Far left.
It might be that one. No, that's not it. That's not it. Well, there was a really crappy photo of it. And
that might be it.
That might be. It was out of the cockpit of a window. A pilot took a photo. And, you know, I wonder, where have all the sightings gone since phones became ubiquitous? I mean, there's a simple, you know, I guess, excuse. The aliens, they're sentient. They know we have phones. They're like, okay, stop, you know, decloaking or whatever. But I wonder if, you know, why is it there were so many UFOs and then around the time cell phone cameras come out, they're gone?
Well, I think most people are full of shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think most people like to pretend they see things that don't really see things. But I don't think that excludes the possibility. It's not like it's not like these things are mutually exclusive. Like people are full of shit, therefore aliens don't exist. I think aliens could be real and people are full of shit. And I think that it's very rare that they visit us. But if they do, how often do scientists go to the Congo to study chimps? I mean, how many people do they send to the bottom of the ocean to look for new life forms? How rare is it?
Let me trip you out on that idea. We put decoys up for animals. Animals can't tell the difference. What if you've actually met a decoy person and you couldn't tell the difference?
Maybe it's you.
Maybe it's me. That's right.
And that's why you're able to work so much.
Oh, yeah, I'm a robot.
You don't get tired.
No.
So it's news, disseminating factual evidence.
Because what I'm actually doing is collecting data for the aliens. No, but I thought about this because I saw a photo on Reddit of a puffin, I think it's called, the bird, and they put up a fake puffin, and it's because I think they're called puffins. It's because the birds don't like nesting in places where they're alone, and so by putting the decoy there, the other birds would start coming, and like one bird showed up and was hanging out with the decoy, and I'm like, could you imagine like you see like we put duck decoys in the water, we do duck calls, and the duck's like, ooh, hey, fly honey, I'm gonna come over and check this out, and it's like a wood block. Could you imagine like seeing like a beautiful woman or someone you're attracted to and being like, "Ooh, look at that!" And it's really like an alien decoy just to like probe you and like better understand you or something?
Well, the decoy, just the term decoy is weird because decoys are used for hunting. Like turkey, it's turkey season right now.
Yeah.
And the way most guys hunt for turkeys, they take a rubber turkey. You put that fucker out in the middle of the field, and then you hide behind a bush with a shotgun. You go, bark, 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 bark. And then the turkeys like hear it, and they come over and they try to get some pussy, and then they get shot.
So what if you see some dude and or see it for you? It'd probably be a beautiful woman. You want to get that pussy, and and then she's going like, hey, come over here, and you're like, oh, hey, me, and
then I get eaten.
No, they just take you up in the ship, probe you, and learn about your butt.
This is the putting things up your butt.
I'm
Most
just kidding,
doctors don't even do that. Like they have MRIs now. Don't aliens need to probe you in your ass? I think it's just what everyone's afraid of. They're afraid of things going in their ass. So that's what they think is going to happen if the aliens get them. They're going to freeze me and touch my ass.
Somebody told the dumb back in the day, and it was the most sensational version. Everybody had to have it, so they were like, that's what they went with.
Maybe, or maybe they do that to keep your mouth shut. They fuck you in the ass just so you keep your mouth shut.
Or some dude actually did, right?
Yeah.
And he comes back and he's like, they think they won against me. They think they beat me. They put stuff up my butt. They're weirdos.
Do you ever hear
They're
the story of Betty and Barney Hill? It's the very first UFO abduction story. It's an ancient story. And what's crazy is Angela Hill, who's a UFC fighter, I had her on the podcast. And after the show, she told me her grandpa was Barney Hill.
Whoa.
And I was like, holy fuck. Like we didn't talk about it during the show, but she wanted to bring it up because she knows I'm kind of obsessed with UFOs. But the account that they have, like they get hypnotized and he's recalling the abduction and they have like the same story. It's very terrifying. You hear him crying and screaming and, that he was taken aboard this craft and examined and brought back and they have missing time. But here's the thing. If they only did that occasionally, they only came down once every few years and just scooped some person up in the middle of some rural place. Like if you're flying over, I think their instance was I believe it was in Maine. If you're flying over somewhere like Maine, which is a very low population state, and you see a lone car and it's just traveling along the highway, and there's places in Maine where you go from like Portland to Bangor. When you're traveling on that road, it's like 60 miles with nothing, not a gas station, nothing. If you were an alien and you saw a car by itself, you're like, no other car, let's move in, we got one.
Isn't it just easy? Think it's the U.S. government?
No.
Why not?
Because we don't have the capability of doing something like that. I don't think the capability of the scientists working for the government is any different than the capability of the scientists that are working for Project X or, fill in the blanks in terms of like what Raytheon, publicly traded companies.
How long? Look, quadcopters don't seem all that complicated to me. Right?
Quadcopters.
Yeah. Like
helicopters?
Like drones. We've seen the little drone toys you buy. They got 4 propellers. Take that concept, use thinner, jets and surround it in a disc so that it's, universally like it can move in any direction because it's got, because it's
what
omnidirectional.
Power source? The gas tank.
Lithium-ion battery. Or
come on, man. You're talking shit. Like this hasn't even been invented yet. Think about how little mileage you can get out of a Tesla. As advanced as Tesla is, still when it's going full out, it can only go for. You get 307 miles if you drive like a grandma, but if you drive like a maniac, you don't even get half that.
I could be wrong with this, but I'm pretty sure that they had this flying platform in the 70s that uses gas power. They've also had jetpacks for a long time.
No, they've sort of. They've had jetpacks that are capable of going for like 30 seconds. They don't. I've experienced.
No.
these.
I'm pretty sure the jetpack in the day went for a long time.
No,
Yeah,
they
yeah.
definitely didn't.
We can look it up.
Yeah, let's look it up because they
'Cause
definitely didn't. The whole thing was the fact they were burning gas, and to propel you in the air, they only had a certain amount.
I thought it was like 20 minutes, 20, 30 minutes.
Maybe now.
My understanding why we abandoned jetpack technology was that it was inefficient and heavy, and you couldn't carry it without it being turned on. So they opted for larger, what are they called? Chinooks. Helicopters that can carry multiple people at once. When you're wearing a jetpack, it has to be on idle, negating its own weight, which means it's burning as you're walking around, which means you get a good 20-minute jump and you got to abandon the tech. And then you don't want your enemies to get it.
Have you ever seen a guy with a jetpack?
Yeah, there's a video on YouTube.
No,
from a long
I mean
time
in
ago.
real life.
Oh, I've seen that one guy, man, dude.
Well,
Not in real life.
I've been there in real life.
Yeah.
Willie B from in Denver on the radio.
Yeah.
He had a radio show in the morning. I used to do his radio show. I think he still has a radio show. Shout out to Willie. And he had this guy who was a jetpack pilot who came in the parking lot of the radio studio, and fans of the radio show came and did it too, and watched it rather. And this guy flew in the air for about 15, 20 seconds and then landed. This guy was so banged up. Both of his legs were blown apart. He had big braces on both of his knees. I'm like, what happened to your knees? He's like, just crash landing. Both my knees are blown to shit. He had no ACLs in either one of his knees. But
well, that's what I'm saying.
It's
Jetpacks.
good for, this is Ben. It was good for about 30 seconds. 30 seconds of flying.
Well, so what I'm trying to get to is if you take something like a quadcopter, you could absolutely fuel it with gas or
It'd be
whatever.
loud as fuck.
But it would. Depending on how you mitigate
It'd be
the
an
noise.
engine. It'd be an engine.
Yeah.
It'd be loud as fuck.
And you'd hear from the quad rotors.
Yeah, but what these people are describing is nothing like that. These people are describing things that are silent, that go from 0 to 1,000 miles an hour in a split second. Things that defy physics as we understand them.
Yeah.
This is not something that I think that the U.S. government has. If you look at like Elon Musk company, Project X or SpaceX. SpaceX is right now one of the premier civilian companies, private companies that's making rocket ships. They fuck up all the time.
Totally.
They're in the middle of innovating all the time. He's one of the smartest people on earth. He's one of in terms of technology, he knows as much about propulsion as anyone, and they still can't get it right. They're still trying to figure it out. They're trying to come up with something that could be viable in terms of commercial space flight, and they're working on it daily. And these people are the brightest minds we know of right now that are in this jet propulsion space travel business. There's, Virgin's working on something. There's a couple other companies that are working on things as well. And then you have NASA, which worked. The best they could come up with was the space shuttle.
Right.
Do you think that there was something way better than space shuttle that they just never used, and that they had, and they kept it on the back burner, didn't want to let anybody know, but the way they would use it is they would pick people up and erase their memory and toy with their asshole? That's crazy.
Well,
that's less likely than the hundreds of billions of galaxies. Just in our own known universe, right? Each one with hundreds of billions of stars. Each star with who knows how many fucking planets. That's somewhere out there that's something more advanced than us. Maybe 1,000 years, maybe 1,000,000 years. But that's figured out how to come here.
I got the same question then. Why hasn't anyone discovered them? Why has SETI failed? Search for extraterrestrial intelligence.
Why haven't they invented guns?
They've more tools, but
right. Why haven't they invented guns though?
I don't know.
Hasn't SETI found UFOs? It's the same fucking answer. They're not advanced enough yet. It's a real simple answer. The industrial age is pretty fucking recent.
Right.
I mean, you think about when people invented cars. You're talking about 1800. That's really recent.
And we've
plane
only used
flights 1800s.
High power radio transmission is only in the past 100 years or so.
Right. Well, you saw the movie Contact.
That's an old one, right?
It's Juster and Matthew McConaughey. It's based on Carl Sagan's book about contact with space and with aliens and how it's going to go down.
I think I did see it recently. I can't remember.
Interesting take on it. But the idea is that they've received the signal that we sent out way back, in the day. Actually, when the first broadcast signal was Hitler announcing the Olympic Games, the start of the Berlin Games. And this was the first signal they got. It was a really controversial moment in the movie, or controversy, in the plot, with that once they were trying to decipher the image that was being sent, they realized it was Hitler.
Yeah.
The first thing they see is a swastika, and they're like, "What the fuck is this?"
They send it back to us.
And then they had to realize, "Oh no, this is the first image that we sent out to space." They wouldn't be able to understand the political or historical context of this. And
well, so I got a few. There's a few I see in terms of aliens and Earth contact. Right, we are substantially more connected, in an evolutionary chain to ants than we are to any alien. So we can't communicate with them. For the most part, we kind of can. We understand how they communicate. But when an ant sees a superhighway, this is someone else's quote, they don't think twice. So it's possible there are aliens that have superhighways right above us. We can't tell what it is. Same as a dog doesn't understand other than stay away from it. But one of the issues I think is often neglected in the conversation about aliens is we assume aliens would be on a very similar planet to us. We assume that they would have some kind of gaseous atmosphere. Perhaps it's a liquid atmosphere. And one of the things that I would ask of a researcher, because I'm not the expert, is the fact that we have the proper balance of oxygen in the atmosphere to manipulate fire, which allows us to separate elements and then create computers and components and fuels, wouldn't exist on a planet without the same atmosphere we existed in.
Stop. I can answer that easily.
Yeah.
There's no known propulsion system for any of these crafts. These things are not using fire. They don't have a heat signal. They don't know what they are. They don't know how they work.
I don't mean propulsion. I mean the separation of elements. The manipulation of elements, right? So we melt things and separate them and break them down.
They don't believe that that's how it works.
No, but I mean, like, how do you even start from? I'm sure there's an answer. Let's say you have a species that lives on a planet with no oxygen and has no access to fire. What energy, what dense energy source do they have that will allow them to manipulate matter?
Do you know the Bob Lazar story?
I do.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that he talked about when he first stopped working for Area S4 and the government was tapping his phones, and there's a lot that can be documented about him. There's a lot that can't be. But one of the things that he talked about was a thing called element 115.
Right.
That element 115 is this insanely dense element that they use to bend gravity. And that the way he described the way the propulsion system works, it's like putting a bowling ball in the center of a very soft mattress, and that all of the other mattress, all the rest of the mass of the mattress bends around the intense mass of the bowling ball, and that this is how these incredibly advanced aliens from this other planet this is their propulsion system.
That was from
Star.
The concept of warp was around for a really long time.
I think the concept is based on Einstein's theory of gravity. I mean, this is the whole idea. If you could find something that could do that. But here's the thing. When Bob Lazar talked about this in the late 80s, early 90s, this element didn't exist.
Right. Now it does.
It wasn't proven until they did it in a particle collider. I believe it was 2013. So he was talking about this element far before it was, and he's apparently, this is the big rumor, he apparently had taken some of that from a lab, and through George Norrie, and was it George Norrie? Yes. They did some experiments on on television and showed that this stuff had made light and fog bend in a way that they couldn't describe.
Didn't he also claim a small alien creature on his way out?
He said he saw something sitting down, but he doesn't know if it was a model that they were using, like if they had created something that was supposed to be the size of a thing that could fit in these crafts, because these crafts, he said, were designed for things that were far smaller than human beings.
I'm pretty initial interview he gave when he went public was that he saw an alien, and then later on changed it, saying, I don't know if it was maybe a model or a puppet.
Yeah, he thought he saw something sitting down and two people standing over it looking at it. He said he thought he saw an alien. But he's probably, I don't know. Look, he said it was literally for like a half a second. Like he's walking by a window and he sees something inside of it. Imagine being a guy who's in your 20s and you're a propulsions expert, and it's been proven that he worked at Los Alamos Labs, and it's been proven that he did put a fucking jet engine. It's been proven that he did put a jet engine on a Honda. He's a genius. And you talk to him, he's an incredibly smart guy. Now imagine you get sent off to Area S4, and they show you this thing that doesn't even exist, and they tell you about this propulsion method that they don't understand, and they say that they found this a long time ago in an archaeological dig, and they want you to back engineer it because you're a propulsions expert, and they're running out of options. They've been studying this for decades. No one knows what the fuck it is or how you can make it work. And then they do test flights with this thing, and then he tells his friends about these test flights. after he gets fired. You know how he got fired? Do you know a story about him getting fired?
He leaked it or something. Yeah.
No. His wife was fucking her flight instructor.
Oh.
And so when his wife was fucking her flight instructor, they told him he couldn't work anymore. And he's like, why not? Well, they were tapping his phone because when you have top secret clearance to work on UFOs, I guess they don't want your wife fucking her flight instructor because then you're going to go crazy and you have a lot of imbalance at home, right? So he doesn't know why. They don't tell him why. So he takes his friends and he tells them, "Listen, this is real. They're running these experiments. I know you're thinking I'm crazy. This is what I've been working on." So he takes them to this area where you used to be able to have access to, but once he did this, they closed off access and pushed it far back to where the public has access to. And he showed them these things doing these impossible maneuvers in the desert, in the night sky.
This I remember.
And so then he gets arrested. And so when he gets arrested, he was in fear of his own life. He goes public and tells this whole story. And then they erase his past. They erase his social security number. They erase his education background. Even though people that knew him and knew he worked at Los Alamos Labs, he takes George Norrie of a tour of Los Alamos Labs, knows the people that work there. They all say hi to him. He takes them on a tour around the laboratory.
Yeah.
Shows them around, shows them the devices they use for biometric security. And
I think the one thing you can't ignore is that there was documentation that he did work at one of these places.
Yes.
And they later claimed he didn't.
Yes.
And like I think I was watching the thing on maybe it was Netflix. I think like he promoted that, right? It was on Netflix. They show the paper like we found it.
Yes.
Like he clearly was there.
He was in the employee register.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. No.
But you know, for me, man, I'd love to believe it all.
He's been insanely consistent about that story.
Yeah.
For 40 years.
I want to believe. You know what I mean?
For 30 years, whatever it's been. Yeah, I want to believe too. That's the problem.
Man, Pixar
the problem
didn't
is
happen.
I want to believe, but that's nonsense. Pixar, it didn't happen is nonsense.
Well,
how do you what about Neanderthals?
No, that's
what dinosaurs. There's no pics.
I'm more so joking, right? What I mean is, show me the evidence, right?
I get it.
The challenge with any theory. I don't like saying conspiracy theory because they're not always conspiracies. Is that people want something to be true. And so they end up looking for things to justify what they think it already is.
Of course.
Instead of starting with what you've got and trying to figure out where it goes from there.
But when you start with what you've got a guy who was living in Vegas, was taking these flights out to Area S4, knows the place, knows it inside out, can describe it very accurately. Also worked at Los Alamos Labs, describes that very accurately.
Right.
Yeah,
it proves he worked there.
But also proves he's a legitimate scientist.
But what
when you talk to the guy, he's a brilliant guy. He's not a nut.
Right.
But what?
Are you aliens?
That doesn't mean
so.
It doesn't mean aliens, but that's what he was told.
Right.
What he was told is this is something that has come from somewhere else, and they're trying to figure out how to work it, how to use it.
What if we're in a simulation? And this was something that was leftover code, or it wasn't supposed to be placed in this certain iteration.
Or there's multiple dimensions that we don't have access to, and that these things do.
The Joe Rogan Experience.
I was watching TV. This happened a couple of weeks ago, and I started laughing because all that popped into my head was you when they released the footage of those UFOs. I was like, Joe Rogan is going to talk about this the next day.
I'm so happy. I love it.
But wasn't that released a year ago?
Well, it leaked. But
was
then
leaked.
The Pentagon finally, look, in the middle of the pandemic, what a great time to just admit there's UFOs. Because one of the things that I said on my Instagram, I was like, in any other time in history, if the government came out and said there are flying saucers that defy our understanding of propulsion and physics, the world would go crazy. But in 2020, people are like nothing.
Has it seen those pilots?
Well, I've had one of them on here.
Oh, so he's a believer.
Commander David Fravor. I had him on the podcast, and he was explaining the whole thing to me, like his experience off the coast of San Diego, running into one of these things. I mean, there's people that are debunkers, but they need to understand this is not just visual. They had very specific, like actual real data, including radar. They track these things. They use sophisticated military tracking. These are real objects. This is not like there's a lot of dummies out there that want to debunk everything. Mm-hmm. And they're just as much of a religious person as someone who's a true believer. They're a true believer that everything can be explained. Well, not everything can be explained,
No.
and these things can't be explained. When they're explaining how these things traveled at these like they went from like 6 feet off the ground to 60,000 feet in a matter of a couple of seconds. They fly in some way that these military aircraft pilots can't explain. They don't understand it, and they don't know what they are. Now, whether they're from another planet, that's never been proven. They might be interdimensional. They might be something from here. They might be some super sophisticated, top of the food chain, top secret stuff that they're exposing these people to just so they freak out and like, let's see if they can get an explanation for this. Let's launch these things and have them fly past people at these preposterous rates of speed and see what the reaction is.
Do you think those type of secrets, if there are higher than the president? Do you think there's an organization that's above presidents?
100%. 100%. Here's why. Come and go. They come every 4 years. We're going to trust some dipshit who wins a popularity contest. Trump's a perfect example of that. Here's a guy who's not even a politician, lifelong businessman who wins a popularity contest, gets to be in the most powerful office, most powerful position really the world's ever known. President of the United States, commander-in-chief of the greatest army this entire planet has ever seen. You're going to tell him?
The Joe Rogan Experience.
So you're working there, and while you're working there, you're under this crazy schedule. Forgive me for explaining your story, but you would get these phone calls. You would have to go to the airport at 11 p.m., and your wife started thinking that you were having an affair.
Yeah, apparently so. Now, I did give my permission to have, as part of the, security clearance process, I gave written permission to have the phones monitored and things of that sort. So they weren't doing any covert stuff. They, with any Q clearance, which is civilian top secret clearance or military top secret clearance, they go talk to friends and, places you've been, make sure you're not connected to foreign countries. But, monitoring your phone is nothing unusual. However, they insisted that, you don't even talk to your loved one, to your partner, to your wife, whatever, about what's going on. So she was essentially in the dark and didn't know the phone was being monitored. Well, part of the security clearance is that not only do you not have any connections to foreign countries and aren't a maniac, but you have to have a stable home life too. Well, she started having an affair with a flight instructor. Now, they were monitoring this on the phone, and they knew it, and I didn't. So they stopped me coming in, and their attitude at the time was, we need to see how this is going to play out, and if Lazar is going to get a little weird or anything. So let's just, hold him off from coming in and, see what happens.
And they explained to you what was happening?
Well, after the fact, yeah, because time kind of went on, and there were guys that were following me around, and I started getting a little concerned, going, well, shit, are they booting me out of the project? And if so, they're not just going to let me hang out at home and go get a new job knowing what I know. So as time went on, I started getting a little concerned, and I took my closest friends and just kind of got together, and I said, hey, remember that job I told you about? This is what's going on. And you don't need to take my word for it. Wednesday night, we need to all go out here. I want to show you what's going on. So I took everybody, and we went out to, remember, since I had the test flight schedule, and went outside the base, out into the desert, and so everybody could see, one of the high-performance tests. And, it left quite an imprint on everybody, so they knew I wasn't.
And there's of these tests, right?
But remember, this is it's in the dark in the 80s with a big monster-sized camcorder, and you got, a bright light jumping around. But, we did video of it, but there's no, by today's standards, it's...
But is your video specifically available, the video that you took?
Well, George Knapp has it.
Is it online?
I give it down.
Do you know?
I have no idea.
Jeremy?
Yeah, clips of it in my film. It's a deep analysis of it. It was interesting to take a look at how...
Pull this microphone up to your face. Keep it about a fist from your face.
All right. to see how his video looks now. But as far as video evidence, I mean, we are talking 80s camcorders. The most important thing is the human story here. Everybody that he took up there on 3 separate occasions, they don't all like each other. They don't all talk. They all agree on one thing. They saw something that night at the exact point in time and space that Bob Lazar said. And remember, this is 17 miles south of Area 51. No one even knew really about Area 51. We're talking Papoose Lake, and they all agree. They saw something that night they had never seen before, and they've never seen since, right when he said it. So that's one of like the 6 things where I'm like, how did he know? You can dismiss him. I tried to dismiss it. But some things we can't get around, and there's about 5 or 6 of them. How did he know about those?
If Jamie wants to find a video right now, what would he look under?
Bob Lazar, UFO, S4, Area 51, just kind of like that. So it's like the S4 UFO video, Bob Lazar, and a guy does an analysis, but you're analyzing these 80s videos.
Right.
He from the very beginning, Bob never said, I have proof of my story and I'm going to tell the world. He said at the very beginning, I cannot prove my story. That's not why I'm telling this. George Knapp convinced him to tell people, and he lived through it, and I didn't believe it either until I talked with George.
Okay, so you film this test flight, one test flight, and then you get caught.
Actually, it was, I think, the 3rd time, because we went out there the first time. Everybody saw it. Everybody was amazed because it did some radical maneuvers, and everybody had a lot to say about it.
Maneuvers that I've seen the. It doesn't. I don't think there's something we have now that does that.
No,
in terms of like a human piloted craft. I mean, I don't know, obviously, what the government...
No, it's impossible. Nothing can move like that. And remember, we didn't start filming from the very beginning. We were waiting for something, to happen. The craft took off and then came flying at us, stopped, turned at a right angle, flew back, and then, after it did some, amazing stuff, we like, to get the camera, and then we started filming. So it doesn't have all of it on there. It just has some.
The way I describe it to my friends, and they said, what is it? I said, take a laser pointer and then have a wall, and then move it around the wall. Like, how it moves around the wall? It doesn't seem like it has anything to do with inertia or physics, or it's not impeded in any way by the atmosphere.
Yeah.
That's what it looks like.
You're essentially separated from reality. As crazy as that sounds, with being in case its own gravitational envelope, inertia is not going to affect it. And, this is how some of those recent sightings with Commander David Fravor, I'm sure you've heard of the Tic Tac UFO. I mean, he describes exactly, the thing operates exactly the way I was describing. That's why he was interested to talk to me. But we saw this, and, on the way home, it's like, hey, we got away with it. We should try it again the next test flight date. So this became a thing to do. And I think it was on the 3rd time that we got caught. I mean, we started becoming a little careless. I think we took a motorhome out there. And, it was like the stupidest thing you could possibly imagine.
Started tailgating.
Yeah, it was ridiculous. And
again, you're in your 20s.
Yeah. And, what was funny was we went out there, and my friend Gene Huff and I were leaning on the front of a vehicle. And just for some reason, we just started talking shit. Like, well, I hope they realize that, I don't remember what we were saying, but, that something about attacking the base or something along those lines and stealing the craft or something like that.
Something crazy.
And then about 20 feet in front of us, we see a little green light fall on the ground and roll to us. And unto us, now it's pitch black, you can't see your hand in front of your face. There were a bunch of guards standing right out there, and they had a night vision scope where they were like from here to the wall looking at us, listening to us, and the guy dropped it, and the scope rolled over to us, and you could see, we turned the lights on, and all these guys are there. So it was, so incredibly stupid stuff, and got caught, as we should have.
So when they catch you and they bring you in, then what happens?
Well, I went in for debriefing. The following day, I went to Indian Springs Air Force Base, which is kind of a defunct base that they used to use at the nuclear test site. And this is when they brought out the transcript of the phone call with my wife. And, they sat me down and we said, when we meant to keep the secret, we meant you can't tell your friends, right? And it just being sarcastic and trying to. And then they got real serious. But this is where they, took the transcript out and were reading me what my wife and, our friend were talking about. And I don't know, it was a hard time.
So what happens from there? What do they do with you? Why don't they arrest you?
I don't know. I don't know why. I'm not sure they knew what to do, but they did let me go that night, and I went home. And this is kind of when the most stressful part started.
Because you realize being monitored.
Yeah, now
24/7.
Now I know not only am I being monitored, but now I know I'm in trouble. And it wasn't a short time after that I contacted, at that time, the only investigative reporter I had heard of in Las Vegas was George Knapp. And, told him some of the story because I had no idea what the hell was going to happen at that point.
So George Knapp tries to dissect your story, tries to find holes in it, tells it, puts it online, and makes everybody aware of it, and that's how I found out about it.
Yeah, to make a long story short. Yeah.
What happens, to really make a long story short, what happens from there on? I mean, do they contact you and say, hey, Bob, it's probably a good idea if you shut up?
Oh,
Did they try to label it crazy? Was there...
There were a lot of things that happened at, between that point. I'm leaving out a lot of stuff to fill in the story. We'd have to go back to Los Alamos and well, I really don't want to talk about that. The
top secret stuff that you were working on.
No, I'm talking 115. Well, I don't know. I have to think about how I'd.
What is them? With this?
I don't want to get myself into more trouble by admitting something. So I just have to dance around a couple.
He was rated just during filming of the movie. People thought it was
the movie's good. It's on Netflix right now. If anybody wants to check it out. Yeah, man, it's going to be a weird world when our kids are our age. It's going to be a weird, weird world.
Yes.
I mean, I don't even think we could begin to comprehend it. I think we'd be totally guessing. I think there's some shit that's coming around the corner. Do you see that NASA Tom DeLonge thing? Everybody keeps harassing me about the video of the UFO.
I'm reading they're putting out more videos all day long, like not just one. Like
Put them out.
of videos.
Let's see them.
Let me see one of them videos. Is Tom DeLonge putting out videos?
No, his organization is putting out videos
of UFOs.
Yeah, it's a fighter pilot, an FA-18, I believe, is chasing this thing, and it's showing all the details of like the altitude, how fast it's going, what pitch it's at, and all that jazz. I don't know what that means, what pitch it's at. But they're watching this thing. They're trying to figure out what it is. One of the guys is like, it's a drone. It's got to be some kind of a drone. They see something. It turns. And it was going very fast.
So basically, it's like all the other UFO footage. It's
blurry.
non-conclusive.
Yeah, it's blurry. It's in like gun sights or like, some sort of infrared sight, rather. So you're looking at it through this weird infrared video where it doesn't necessarily look, it's weird. It's weird. You're looking at it, you're like, okay, what am I looking at? I'm looking at a little object.
Do you remember that quote? It could be a total bullshit quote from Warren Braun that he said right before he died that beware of the fake alien invasion.
Did he say that?
In so many words.
I hope he did. I hope he did, and he did it just to fuck with people. See,
Maybe.
that's it flying around. There's a whole fleet of them. Look at my ASA.
Oh my gosh. They're all going against the wind. The wind's 120 knots from the west. Look at that thing, dude.
So they're following it for a while, and then it changes direction.
That's not us, though, is it? It's not. That is it on us, dude. Well, if there's like... It's rotating.
So whatever that is fucking super interesting. And I heard they're now going to fly Travis Barker to Washington, D.C. to talk to people and give him some information as well.
No
Well,
way.
Yeah.
No
next,
way.
Next, they're going to fly Kanye West. They're going to fly him out and show him the secret lab.
For real?
No.
Oh.
I'm making this up.
Okay.
I just think it's
that looks
crazy
fake
that
as
they're
fuck.
flying Tom DeLonge out. No, it might not be fake. It might be real.
It could be. It looked fake. though.
Here's the thing about aliens, right? How often do you think they'd have to visit? I think they could get it done once in the 70s and be done with us. They'd check us out and they'd be go, look at these crazy assholes. This is what we're going to do. We're going to we're going to install some cameras on the moon. These stupid fuckers, they won't even be able to see it. We'll just put some big ass cameras to film them from the distance and let's get out of here. These people are crazy. Like this, they're going to have nuclear power with these assholes and we would never see them again. So like, if that really is a UFO, if it really is from another planet rather, how many times do they have to come here? If they are real, how much evidence would you really see of them? Would you see it once every 10 years? How often would they come by?
Who had that joke that, was it you maybe? Some joke that, like, maybe this is like the Tijuana of the universe or something?
Yeah, this is the Tijuana of outer space. They really come down here when they're fucked up, want to see a show.
Was that part of your
Yeah.
That was old.
Yeah, that's super old. That's 2000s, early 2000s. Yeah, I think I'm a non-believer, that's for fuck sure. I think it's entirely possible. Like, if I looked up in the sky and an alien ship flew by, I would never think there's no way that can't be real. It can't be possible. I would think, wow, they visited us. I mean, I'm sure there's something out there that's smart. I'm sure there is. It's a matter of what it would look like, you know? Would it even be in a physical form anymore? I mean, why do we assume that everything has to be in a physical form? What are you looking at? Kendrick Lamar says he saw a UFO, but nobody believes him.
The Joe Rogan Experience.
You wonder at all that this is a massive psyop, and this is all just to cover up some very advanced American weapons technology.
I think it's a very good question, and here's why I believe that. Because I have done 30 years of field research, right? So I've gone to China, I've been to Russia, I've been to Australia and Africa and South America, Canada, Alaska, all across Europe, the United States, and I've investigated close encounters of the third kind. And I would ask your audience, don't take it from me, but the United States Air Force investigated and categorized close encounters of the first, second, and third kind, right? During their official capacity, Project Sign, Project Grudge, Project Blue Book.
Great fucking movie, by the way. If you haven't seen it, folks, Close Encounters of the Third Kind, probably the best alien invasion movie of all time.
Dr. Nick has a cameo appearance in that film. Did you know that?
I had heard that.
Yeah,
I don't remember who he was, though, but wasn't the French guy?
Yeah, Jacques Vallée.
He's supposed to be Jacques Vallée.
Jacques Vallée, well, there's a guy acting his part, but actually Dr. J.L.N. Hynek, who is a scientific advisor to Project Blue Book all those years for the Air Force, actually has a cameo appearance, smoking a cigar during the encounter. And
that's him.
Right.
That's
Hynek.
That's right.
Yep.
Smoking a pipe.
Smoking a pipe. And a lot of the cases down to Richard Dreyfuss's face being burned by the UFO, those came directly out of Project Blue Book files. Even the description of what the entities looked like. Close Encounters, again, Close Encounters of the Third Kind. This is the United States Air Force documenting this stuff.
Yeah.
And he took it directly out of Project Blue Book files and made a movie out of it. And as a little wink, wink, nudge, nudge, he has Dr. Hynek have a cameo appearance in the movie. Know that.
It's a fantastic movie, too.
It's a great movie.
Because it's a movie that's filled with, it's not like standard UFOs land. There's some play going on. There's some weirdness to the way they interact with us that sort of is much more realistic. In terms of like the things that people experience, they experience interactions, very strange interactions. And when they had those little orb-like things that were flying around in the movie, that's all straight out of like, yeah.
100%. I remember I had a buddy of mine who was a pilot over Europe in the 70s, and he used to come for family dinners, and he was always talking about it. And I was like, yeah, whatever. And then later we're all in the life.
Fighters.
Started getting interested in UFOs. I was like, Michael, tell me about that UFO encounter you had, that red orb. He goes, it was just like it was in the Close Encounters of the Third Kind, Steven Spielberg's movie. And I was like, they took those files directly out of Project Blue Book files and right onto the big screen.
That's what fighters were, right?
Yeah, fighters too. They had little orbs.
Yeah, these fighter pilots are flying around. They're seeing these things with them.
Well, let me ask you, and this is why that I don't think it's a PSYOP thing. Because,
I don't think that either.
Well, the reason why is because, I don't just believe Grush because he testified under oath and he's a high-level intelligence officer. That's very impressive. I believe Grush because his claims align with my personal research in the field. Remember, I've investigated crash retrieval programs, crash retrieval cases, right? Mm-hmm. And so when I put out Moment of Contact, well, actually, when I went in to put out Moment of Contact, people were going, James, you just dropped one of the biggest, most successful UFO films in terms of transcending the UFO community and penetrating a much broader, more mainstream audience. Are you sure you want to put out a documentary that deals with an alleged crash and live aliens walking around the town of Varginha, Brazil? Like, seriously, that's what you want to put out there? You got access to like Harry Reid and all these intel insiders, and now you want to do that? You're going to tarnish your reputation. It's a bad.
Who gave you?
A lot of people did. They were.
I wish me.
Well,
you like James. You can handle it.
You probably heard Moment of Contact, and then you thought, "Oh, this sounds too crazy." And then eventually you watched it.
No, thought. Well, I always think a crash and contact sounds crazy.
I know
I always
and it does.
I always think that, but I would have never told you not to do it.
Oh, okay.
I would have never told you not to do it. You're really good at this. You know how to you're really good at explaining.
But you look at town talking about it, including the mayor.
That's an incredible story. Incredible story.
It's a phenomenal story.
It's one of those stories where you're like, if everybody's in on this is crazy. If everybody's telling it, and there's not one contrarian that comes out and goes, they all told me to lie. I'm not fucking lying. This is stupid. They're doing it for tourism.
Oh,
not one person. Come on. There's always some hater. There's always some hater who wants to ruin your gag.
I remember.
You know what I mean?
I totally do. I remember when I was making Moment of Contact and I wasn't done with it yet, Lou Elizondo was like, he's like, James, he called me up. He goes, I need a copy. I was like, the film's not done. I don't care. I need a copy. Give me a rough cut. I don't care. I was like, okay, what's the urgency? And he's like, you don't understand who's watching this right now. So I was like, okay. So I'm giving him copies, and I had absolutely no idea ever in 100 million years that I think we're going to be having, months after the release of Moment of Contact, a congressional hearing under oath that was a crash retrieval program.
What year?
Biologics. It came out at the end of 2022.
Do you think he watched it? Do you think he sat down with Biden? That would have been wild.
Could
you imagine Biden?
He's been so dismissive of it all. Like, Obama said a lot more about it.
Why? Because he's in space. He's in space right now.
He's like,
he's
to
in
Obama.
orbit right now around.
That's the best you can do.
Dr. Manhattan. He's on the moon in a glass house.
Let's say, if Biden, if you're listening right now, you have nothing
sir,
to.
You're the president of the United States, sir. Release the hounds.
He's never running ever again.
Exactly.
He's not running for a second term. Yeah. Come on, we're done.
He's pardoned more human beings than any president ever other than Carter.
The advice at the end of the program by Senator Harry Reid, who's now the late Senator Harry Reid, and I said to him, what advice would you give the president? It could have been any president at the time. And he said, don't be afraid of tarnishing your legacy by addressing this issue head on. And I hope that Biden gets to see that. And I really hope that President-elect Donald Trump gets to see that. People are ready for the truth. They've had enough of the lying. I think we're way beyond that at this point.
I agree with you. However, when I confronted Mr. Trump, he was very cagey.
Was he really?
Very cagey. I've seen some things. They told me some things. He didn't tell me shit. He basically, it was basically like neither confirm nor deny. No, there was no eyes. I don't do that shit. Especially to a pro like Donald Trump. Like, you're not.
Really?
Yeah. If you're going to do it to an actor or so, shut up. You're not going to know what the fuck they think.
Face.
Daniel Day-Lewis told you that he just ate a baby. You'd fucking believe him. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Like, this idea that, like what did his eyes tell you? What did his eyes tell you? It depends on the person. Depends on the person. If it's your regular crackpot and they tell you a lie, you're like, something's up. But there's people that can hide things. They can hide things behind their eyes. I think he knows something. I don't think he's that interested. I think he's more interested. I think he's a sort of a no-nonsense type of guy. This is why. You kind of have to be managing multiple businesses simultaneously, right?
Yeah.
He's always done that his whole career, right?
Yeah.
Managed being on The Apprentice while running these golf courses, while having these buildings, apartment buildings, hotels. He's constantly doing something, right?
Yes.
So while he's doing all that, and he's playing golf, while he's doing all that, there's no time for fucking aliens, man. There's no time for nonsense. There's no time for sitting around with your buddies, smoking a cigar going, what do you think, man? I mean, if I was them, man, I would do what they're doing. I wouldn't even, there's no time for that nonsense talk. That guy's got businesses.
But we got objects of unknown origin flying over residential areas, flying over military bases, flying over nuclear silos.
Well, now I think he's more interested because
that's a national security. People are freaking out. Like, what we seen, and they're going, we don't know what they are, but everything's fine.
Well, he's
totally safe. There's no national security issue here. We don't know what they are, but you're fine. Don't worry about it. You remember what was the Steven Spielberg movie with the shark, the great white shark?
Yeah, Jaws.
Jaws. You remember when they're like,
yeah.
everything's fine.
The mayor's like swimming.
Yeah, keep swimming. The water's fine. Everyone would say people are getting bit in half.
That is the perfect analogy.
Right.
That is it.
Everything's fine. Go about your life.
They're definitely
Nothing
not
to see.
nukes and drones. Come on, nuke sniffing drones. So what if some nuclear
Oh my
material was
gosh.
just stolen
Oh my
off a
gosh.
cargo ship? Whatever. Guys.
All the online conspiracy stuff is crazy, and I get a lot of it because obviously what I do.
Of course.
And people send me all kinds of stuff. I was like, well, hang on a second. I wish I could put boots on the ground, but no, there's something really weird going on. And the fact that they don't know, or they're claiming that they don't know what it is.
The subject is much more open to discussion, like I was saying, amongst serious people.
Yes.
Where it didn't used to be before. And now I think with this drone thing, I think there's so many people that are going, okay, even if they're ours or they're China's or they're who, what's going on?
Yeah.
Like, why are there so many of them? What are the answers? And why can't you tell us? Is it because they're searching for a nuke? Jesus Christ, maybe you should warn people and get the fuck out of here. Is that really what's going on? Like, if it's not, what is going on? And if it's not ours, what are they? And how come you can't track them? How come, like, what kind of...
Very bizarre.
It doesn't even make sense.
It's very,
It doesn't
very
make
bizarre.
sense when you think of the capabilities of the United States military. It doesn't make any sense. They can't figure out what's going on. I think what Trump said is probably correct, that the government knows. They know what's happening, and they don't want to tell people.
Why
for
wouldn't
whatever
he know?
reason.
He could tell us. Why wouldn't he?
I don't think he knows yet. I don't think until he gets into office. He gave a speech about it at Mar-a-Lago.
I saw that.
Well, let's watch it. We'll watch it. We'll watch it.
Yeah,
Pull the speech up.
Yeah, because I'm wondering if he. Yeah, well, we're about to find out.
Yeah, essentially, he was saying he knows that the government knows what's going on, and they're not telling us.
So
And that means they're not telling him.
So they're not telling him.
I don't think until you get into office, you're not the president, right? So he's the president-elect. I don't know
Right.
what kind of
Clearances that he has.
Yeah, I don't understand how that works.
God, I'd be very curious to know what he knows.
Right, especially with this. Like, who do you even ask? Like, who is the person that can lay out the information? Like, which department? Which agency?
Yeah,
Let's
right.
hear
And
him
it seems
talk.
like they're so compartmentalized.
What about the fear here at home of the drones? Good to see you. Thank you. Good to see you. Good to see you.
Can you comment on the drones that are flying around New Jersey and ports? It seems like the American people have a big disconnect.
The government knows what is happening. Our military knows where they took off from. If it's a garage, they can go right into that garage. They know where it came from and where it went. And for some reason, they don't want to comment. And I think they'd be better off saying what it is. Our military knows and our president knows.
Our president
And
knows.
for some reason, they want to keep people in suspense. I can't imagine it's the enemy, because if it was the enemy, they'd blast it out. Even if they were late, they'd blast it. Something strange is going on. For some reason, they don't want to tell the people, and they should, because the people are really, I mean, they happen to be over Bedminster.
Will you
Want to
shoot
know
them
the
down?
truth.
What?
They're very close to Bedminster. I think maybe I won't spend the weekend in Bedminster. I've decided to cancel my trip.
Yeah.
I won't spend the weekend in Bedminster.
Yeah. I
Wow.
mean, I bet someone told him, Mr. President, it's pretty important that you don't go to the golf course. Yeah.
God, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Hey,
so what does that mean?
I gotta, if you don't mind, I was contacted. I went to this.
Are you gonna switch?
No. This is all about exactly what I'm about. This is something that I really need to put out there because it's very important.
Okay.
And it's an unprecedented effort spearheaded by this woman Andrea, who runs a number of communities on Reddit, and she said that they're banding together for the first time ever. It's the biggest grassroots campaign for government transparency. This is happening on Friday, the 20th of December at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. And this has the potential to reach millions and millions of people. It's the most unprecedented event on Reddit in history. And I'll post all of the necessary information on X because this is a very grassroots effort. And
what are they doing?
At James C. Fox on X, formerly known as Twitter. It's the Reddit community is banding together for a huge grassroots campaign for government transparency. So basically, all the various platforms on Reddit, like paranormal, UFO, they don't usually get along too well, but they're all combining their resources and they're getting together for the first time ever. And to push for government transparency, there's a couple of government insiders that appear in my film that will be appearing on this to answer questions and what steps that need to be happening, what's going on today. And this is happening on the 20th of December, 3 p.m., and I'll be posting more information, the very specific details on X at James C. Fox. I just wanted to get that out there before, because...
Well, the more this stuff that happens, the better. The more people demand it, the better. The more politicians hear from the people and want to... I mean, especially politicians that are up for re-election, and they want to show that they're doing what the people want them to do. Yeah, I'd like to know more, but obviously I'm very happy that we're hearing much more about this subject in a serious way.
Yeah.
You know, whatever the hell's going on.
The Joe Rogan Experience.
What did you think about when they attached in the COVID relief bill 180 days for the CIA to release all the information they have about the UFOs? Did you see that?
That's one of the things I love about this.
We can go from there.
Oh my God.
Yeah, we can't be taken seriously that way.
No. But I will say this. I tell people this all the time. They say, why is it so entertaining? I say, because he's curious about everything. He's genuinely curious about everything, and it's a good question. Look, I'm happy that when it comes to UFOs, there's a lot of things that the agency needs to keep, off the radar, right? For source methods, right? It's a need to know issue. And frankly, again, going back to what's in the U.S. best interest, for that day when China decides to release all of their intel operations and information, then great. Maybe it's time for us to be transparent. But that's not the way the world works.
Do you think that's what it is? Of it is just secret programs, defense vehicles?
Well, no. What I'm saying is in terms of the UFO thing, a great portion of it is. Yeah, a great portion of it is
50%.
Oh, now the 47% actually. Anybody has said that? That's well known inside the community. Look, I think it's good because I think it's for the same reason the Pentagon released the information about ATIP, about the Advanced Aeronautical Threat Identification Program. I think it's actually good. There's no reason why we shouldn't, unless you are talking about developmental aircraft as an example, right? Which is important. Because whether you're talking about hypersonic aircraft or missiles or whatever it is, there's some stuff that needs to be kept off the radar screen because there is a tremendous competition going on right now particularly for things like control of space. That's going to be a huge issue, right?
Yeah.
Because the weaponization of space. For a long time, people were thinking, space, it's a great exploration and it's good for mankind. And frankly, there is a race to figure out how to weaponize space. And so, as an example of what we're talking about, the idea of just saying, we're going to open the books as a country and reveal all our information about developmental aircraft as an example, that's the wrong move, right?
But do you think there are incredible stories, whether it's from Commander David Fravor, who saw that Tic Tac vehicle off the coast of San Diego, or whatever video?
Yeah. If I had to point to one, I would say Fravor.
Yeah.
I would say without a doubt, I'd say the one that, if I were somebody who's looking for some redemption, because I've been beating the drum about UFOs and nobody's ever believed me, they always roll their eyes, I would say the one thing that would give them comfort would be the incident with Commander Fravor and that sighting.
Mm-hmm.
That's one that I have yet to see an explanation for that makes any sense.
Well, not only that, there's Practit.
Yeah.
Like there's
and
then also it blocked their radar systems, which is an act of war. It actively jammed radar systems. It's not simple as like they saw something, they didn't know what it was. Like they tracked this thing going from I think it was close to 80,000 feet above sea level to one
down,
in 1 second.
Yeah, no signs of motion.
Yeah,
no heat signatures, nothing. Right, and it was a. Yeah, it's one of those things you look at and you go, okay. And look, the ATIP program made sense in the sense that, if a nation is out there, if the Chinese are out there, or the Russians, or whomever, and they're developing propulsion capability that we don't know about, then we should have a mechanism within the Pentagon, within the intel community, to understand what that is. Let's research it, let's investigate, right? And so oftentimes, they come to a logical conclusion. The Fravor incident, I have yet to see any information that explains it, right? So that to me, and also, as you pointed out, the way that it was tracked, the verification of it from very credible individuals, that to me is like the prime example.
And they have video footage of this thing too.
Yes,
and then
yeah.
on top
And they
of
have gun
Nimitz
camera footage that's incredible.
saying that these things are fairly common, that they're seeing them every couple of weeks. They were seeing them, and when Fravors like, "Hey guys, what the fuck is this?" and they're like, "Yeah, you see it?
Yeah,
we've been seeing these things."
And there's no side for somebody like that, a very well respected aviator. With great experience, there's no upside for these guys to come forward, right? In fact, there's pressure to not, because it's not necessarily good for your career, right? To come in and say, "I think I saw a UFO," right?
What do you think is going?
I don't know. We've talked about that before. I'm not,
I'm trying to get the forget what you said before.
Yeah, I know, right? You forgot about the damn bet. I shouldn't have opened my mouth. I know. I'll go back to that, though. They would have called me out. If Trump comes back and runs, they would have said, "Oh, you owe him $1,000.
Can't wait to get that Screaming Eagle in here that I'm going to buy.
I'm going to I'll buy it for you with them, and I'll put a little plaque on there to say where it came from.
Big Buns Eagle.
I know, big. Oh, God. I've got one. I gave a speech for a Veterans Day event, and it was very kind. They gave me this big eagle. I keep it in my office now. It's fantastic. I keep it in the background when I do news segments from my office, and it's like perched over my shoulder.
Nice.
And you got to have one in here. Anyway, I don't know.
You think about it at all?
Yeah, I do. In the terms of and like I said, with Black Files Declassified coming up, I just got another plug-in. We're going to do an episode
That's on the
Discovery Channel, and you know what? You can see the entire first season on Discovery Plus. So I think it's foolish to discount these things, because there's so much we don't know, right? So, and the idea of thinking that somehow we're the only credible life forms out there, I think is ridiculous. So I think there's a high possibility that that there's, yes, I do think that, but at the same time, then I also question sort of the way that's great. If some alien life force with amazing technology that we can't even fathom right now comes to visit us, then what the hell are they doing? Are they just sort of like watching us just for the entertainment value? Or what? So I'm always puzzled by that part. Like, the idea that, I don't know.
Well, they probably want to observe, but they won't want to interfere.
Mm-hmm.
There's probably, if they're super advanced, they probably realize there's a process that intelligent life goes through, where there's stages of their evolutionary development in terms of use of technology, understanding of each other, mitigation of war and conflict, and then ultimately entrance into the Galactic Federation. Catch new episodes of the Joe Experience for free only on Spotify. Watch back catalog JRE videos on Spotify, including clips. Easily, seamlessly switch between video and audio experience. On Spotify, you can listen to the JRE in the background while using other apps, and can download episodes to save on data cost, all for free. Spotify is absolutely free. You don't have to have a premium account to watch new JRE episodes. You just need to search for the JRE on your Spotify app. Go to Spotify now to get this full episode of the Joe Rogan Experience.